Genese is a small county town in the south, and the heat is unbearable in late summer. Jong Nian just returned home, the refrigerator door was opened, and white mist hit him. He searched for a while, and finally found a few slices of bread left over from the morning, and took a few bites. After a little food fell into his stomach, he finally recovered. With a buzz, his cell phone vibrated, and someone called him. Leg, the class life committee member, was a show-off with acne on his face. This guy added everyone in the class on QQ. In the name of uniting classmates, he actually coveted the girl's grass. Jong Nian, Jo Yuting is looking for someone to play, let me ask you if you want to go. Leg's voice was a little instigating. He once said that he liked Jo Yuting. To be precise, there are few boys in the class who don't like Jo Yuting, including Jong Nian. Jo Yuting has an oval face, willow leaf eyebrows, a thin waist and long legs. Under her summer school uniform is a chest as soft as the ridgeline of spring. Smart and rich, she is the class committee member. No. Really? Do you still remember Jo Yuting's birthday party? Leg advised, what's the big deal? They didn't mean it. It was just a joke. Jong Nian gets angry when birthday parties are mentioned. Jo Yuting celebrated her birthday a while ago, and 6 or 7 people had a meal together. Out of kindness, Jong Nian took the initiative to go to a convenience store not far away to buy water-soluble C100. When he came back, he heard Lu Fipeng and a few girls laughing at him. He won't run away with an excuse, will he? The order for our table is indeed a bit expensive. I guess he thought it was a. I don't know that Daepan paid for the consumption tonight. Yeah, and he said that the broken drink was delicious, but he was missing these few dollars. Haha, he is a warm man, and he ranks behind the dog. A group of people laughed, which made Jong Nian outside the box feel uncomfortable. He heard Jo Yuting's laughter. Obviously, they usually had a good time and never said a word for him. Since then, Jong Nian has seen through it. Byang's things. If it wasn't Jo Yuting's birthday party, he didn't want to go at all. In this day and age, pure love is not as good as pure gold. Having money is great, but can it buy your mother? If I had money, I would not even look at Jo Yuting. I really misjudged her before. Damn, that's how they see me. No, let them have fun by themselves. Jong Nian sneered. Leg replied, okay, I'll tell the beautiful Jo. Jong Nian put down his phone, leaned on the sofa and sighed faintly. The world has really changed. When will kindness be regarded as a clown? His chest rose and fell. If you have no money, you will be bullied. If you have money, you can do anything right. At the moment when the anger reached its peak, there was a buzz in his mind. A translucent panel appeared in front of him, and line after line of white words slowly emerged. At the age of 18, you were admitted to an ordinary second-tier university. After graduation, you joined a large company. You worked overtime until your liver exploded, and you ran errands until you had cramps, but you didn't get a promotion or a raise. At the age of 28, your parents persuaded you, who had accomplished nothing, to go on a blind date. In order to protect your self-esteem, I carefully held a passbook and handed it over. At the age of 30, the betrothal gift was 588,000 yuan, and you gritted your teeth and took out a loan to buy a house and a car for 1.34 million yuan. Hardware cost 80,000 yuan, maintenance gift 128,000 yuan, change of name fee 30,000 yuan, and car get on and get off gift 66,000 yuan. The luxury hotel was crowded with guests, and everyone had a smile on their face. The bouquet was thrown high into the air, like a white dove flying in the sky. At the age of 32, the company was restructured, and you were extremely lucky to escape. Your boss always assigned the heaviest work to you, and you came home later and later, and your health was getting worse and worse. At the age of 35, you lost your job, and your wife became more and more dissatisfied with you. You had no children, the physical examination reports were getting worse and worse, and the quarrels became more and more frequent. At the age of 38, the suitcase rolled across the floor, and your wife left with a cold face. The broken screen of the mobile phone lit up, and the call from your parents kept ringing. In the ruins, you lowered your head and lit a cigarette. Host, Jong Neon, the divorce counterattack system has been loaded. Do you have the courage to start a counterattack in life at the age of 40? On the sofa, Jong Neon looked at the words in his mind and was stunned. Divorce. 38 years old. Ah. Isn't the person mentioned on the panel himself? Jong Neon's name is correct. He was confused for more than 10 minutes and got goosebumps. Suddenly, he looked up and realized something. No, I'm only 18. Oh, is this system too early? Looking at the last line of white small words on the panel, do you have the courage to start a counterattack in life at the crossroads of 30/40? He reached out and vaguely saw two choices, yes or no. There is actually nothing to hesitate about. If this system is fake, then just treat it as playing a game of The Sims. If it is true, then he has no reason to give up. Jong Neon knows very well that because of poverty, how humble can a person be? He is relatively lucky. At least his parents will support him when the sky falls, and his living standard is not bad. What about the future? What if I can't provide for my parents? In this world, people can be incompetent but not without money. Hard work may not be rewarded. If you choose the wrong direction, you will make mistakes at every step. Choose, yes. The panel vibrated with a buzzing sound, and then a line of small words appeared. The divorce counterattack game has been loaded. Host, Jong Neon, male, age, 38. Your marriage failed. Standing at the crossroads of your 40s, you thought of your childhood sweetheart. After marriage, you cut off contact and never heard from her again. Re-establish contact with Su Qian, reward, 300 RMB. After reading, Jong Neon couldn't help but curl his lips. Why is this system so literary? But it doesn't matter. Just give money. Re-establish contact with childhood sweetheart Su Qian, who had a falling out. He got up and paced in the living room for a while. He opened the door and fell into deep thought at Su Qian's house opposite. Dong dong dong. Jong Neon knocked on the door without any effort. Su Qian, what are you doing? After a while, hurried footsteps came from behind the door, and the crisp voice pierced out before the person arrived. Go away, Jong Neon, you want to die. The door was opened with a bang, revealing a delicate little face with a puffy face. A graceful girl appeared, about 1.6 meters tall, wearing a beige knitted top, with a bulging chest as if hiding a treasure. The girl has lively eyes, fair skin, eyebrows like distant mountains, and soft long hair tied with a rubber band. I didn't realize it before, she is a real beauty. It's a pity that the two of them didn't get along since childhood, and their relationship deteriorated sharply since junior high school. He stole Su Qian's ice cream and released her turtle into the sewer. Su Qian had a slight cold, but he took her to the hospital without saying anything, so she missed the exam, and Jong Neon got the first place in the class for the only time in his life. With all these bad deeds, he should be grateful to Su Qian for not killing him. After the second semester of the second year of high school, the relationship between the two sides eased a lot, probably because they had grown up. Now, in a blink of an eye, they are already in the third year of high school, and they still don't get along. You are crazy, Jong Neon. The girl put her hands on her hips and glared at him angrily. Why are you knocking on the door in broad daylight? I'll tell Onley to let her beat you up. Jong Neon stared at Su Qian, or more precisely, at the light blue translucent panel in front of him. Sure enough, only he could see it. Re-establish contact with the unmarried childhood sweetheart Su Qian who had a falling out, reward, 300 RMB, completed. Hey, has it arrived? Su Qian scolded Zhang Nian in a hurry, and suddenly found that the other party seemed to be staring at her in a trance. She couldn't help but stand on end, and took a step back, covering her bulging chest. Why are you looking at me like that? Then, she saw Zhang Nian take out his mobile phone from his trouser pocket and took a look. Then he was overjoyed, threw down a sentence he, and ran away. Looking at Zhang Nian's back as he returned to the opposite door, Su Qian couldn't help but curl her lips. Something's wrong. In the living room, Zhang Nian held his phone and looked at it again and again. And was immediately delighted. There really was an extra 300 yuan in the card, and the balance changed from 305.23 to 605.23. The transfer note said Game Experience Officer Remuneration. At this time, the panel appeared again. You are 38 years old and financially distressed. You are unemployed, divorced, and have almost lost all your property. You can only rely on your parents for support. Task, urgent. You who received the first reward will pay off the water, electricity, and gas owed for the rental house. Reward, 500 RMB. He thought this should be a novice task, so he opened the app and started paying. I don't rent a house, so paying for my own gas, water, and electricity should be considered completing the task. At the same time, he felt very sad. Will my future self be so miserable? Buzz. 500 yuan has arrived. So far, the difficulty of system tasks has been relatively low. Zhang Nian checked the balance of his bank card. He spent more than 170 yuan on the payment, and the accumulated balance was 935.45. He was a pragmatic man, and after the 500 yuan arrived, he gradually calmed down. 500 yuan is a drizzle, as long as it does not exceed 5,000 yuan a day, no one will care. But if it exceeds in the future, it will be very troublesome. Not only will the bank card be frozen, but if it is a large transfer, it may be investigated. The transfer party showed Tianguang Game Co., Limited. Zhang Nian checked and found that this company not only exists, but also is a listed company. The company has only one game experience officer. Zhang Nian is certainly not stupid enough to really believe that this radish pit really exists, not to mention that current technology cannot reach the level of a portable panel. And he is not a chief experience officer, it is purely a system that fills in the real bug. In other words, the source is reasonable and legal. It feels great. As soon as he finished checking, the system panel appeared again, and the novice task came again. The son wants to support his parents, but they are not waiting. At the age of 38, you realize that your parents are old. Looking back at the past half of your life, you resolutely embark on the journey home, and you can't help but feel homesick. Task, make a sumptuous dinner for your parents. Reward, 800 RMB. Looking at the task requirements, Zhang Nian couldn't help but touch his chin. It was afternoon now, and he had time to prepare dinner, otherwise he would have to wait until tomorrow. The school was closed for the next 2 days, and he had to go back to study tomorrow night. Cooking is not a problem. Almost no one in the Zhang family can't cook. When my grandfather was young, he worked as a chef in Yangcheng restaurant. My father and uncle can cook a few dishes. But the taste is not satisfactory. When it comes to my own father, it is like a pig's nose with a green onion, as my grandfather said. Zhang Nian is an exception. His grades are average, but he has a different way and is talented in cooking. He doesn't think it's difficult for others to cook white and red cases. Every summer vacation, he stays at his grandfather's house without fail, eating good food. At the same time, He has learned several big dishes intermittently, and the taste is pretty good. Since it is going to be rich, the ingredients must be the freshest. In the afternoon, Jang Nian went to the vegetable market and returned disappointed. He forgot that there was no fresh food in the afternoon. A group of Zhongdeng saw that he was young and wanted to pass off inferior products as good ones, so they raised and lowered the prices first. As expected, there is no business without fraud, bid. It is not unreasonable that young people like to go to the supermarket. These people in the vegetable market look at people and serve them dishes. They deserve to be unable to sell. After preparing the ingredients, it was already 4 o'clock when he got home. On the kitchen quartz countertop, there were boneless and sliced Yangshan chickens. This Guangdong specialty chicken costs more than 30 yuan per catty, while frozen ones only cost 100 or 200 yuan. The higher quality live chickens are slaughtered and processed on the spot. They are in short supply, so they are sold in jennies at a premium of 40 yuan per catty. A chicken weighs 7 catties. The meat is refreshing and chewy, fat but not greasy, and it is indeed worth the price. He plans to make steamed chicken in lotus leaves. The meat is firm and tender and expensive, so it can be considered a feast, right? The rest will be perfunctory. He plans to make a plate of stir-fried seasonal vegetables, a plate of stir-fried yellow beef, smashed cucumbers and peanuts, and a pot of pork rib soup. Logically speaking, a family of 3 will definitely not be able to finish all these dishes. Zhang Nian took into account that there was Su Qianqian next door. In a sense, the two were indeed childhood sweethearts. Su Qianqian was from a single-parent family, and her mother passed away a few years ago. Her father, Director Su, was an expert in reproductive men's department of the county hospital. He had cut eggs and saved impotence. He always wears frameless glasses and has a gentle smile to everyone. He has not been able to get over his wife's death and uses work to numb himself all day. In the past few years, the Zhang family has been in trouble, and Lao Su has helped a lot privately. The two families have a deep relationship. So even though his parents have been busy working to pay off debts in the past few years, as long as the family has good food, they will definitely call Su Qianqian, and even if they cut a melon, they have to give her the sweetest one. Zhang Nian has gotten used to it and subconsciously counted Lao Su and Su Qianqian's portions. It is just right for 5 people, which is both rich and not wasteful. In the afternoon, Li Hongmei just got off work and hurriedly tied an apron and ran to the kitchen. The meal will be ready soon, you can read a book and stop playing with your phone. You are almost a senior in high school, and I tell you, the college entrance examination is like thousands of troops crossing a single plank bridge. Zhang Nian was lying on the sofa, holding a popsicle and playing with his phone, without even raising his eyebrows. Oh, I see, Mom. You kid. Li Hongmei wiped her hands on her apron, and was stunned as soon as she entered the kitchen. Looking at the warm dishes, she turned her head and glanced at Zhang Nian. Who cooked the dish? I cooked it? How was it? Upon hearing this, Li Hongmei's expression instantly became interesting. It's not that she doubted Zhang Nian's cooking skills. The old man was very close to his grandson and wanted to teach his lifelong skills to his grandson. Where did you get the money? This meal of Yangshan chicken and beef must cost at least several hundred yuan, right? Hey, isn't this the money earned by playing games? Zhang Nian touched his face with a guilty conscience, staring at his mother Li Hongmei with bated breath. Li Hongmei frowned, and the atmosphere in the kitchen instantly froze. After a stalemate of about 10 seconds, Li Hongmei spoke. Can your game really make money? Yes, it can. You are already in the 3rd year of high school and still playing games. You must change your phone. Li Hongmei took off her apron and glared at him angrily, don't play any more in the future. Save the money yourself and don't spend it carelessly. Oh, okay. Zhang Nian said nothing. Anyway, he didn't need a phone to complete the system tasks. After that, her tone softened again, the food is quite rich. My son has grown up. Hearing this, Jong Nian couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and smiled again. When will Mr. Jong get off work? Soon, Dexing, you are still conceited. Go and call Qian Qian to eat. Li Hongmei had a stern face. Her son has been unruly since he was a child. He will be bright with a little sunshine. Where is Uncle Su? He asked. Li Hongmei took out a watermelon from the refrigerator. He went on a business trip to study. He went there this morning. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door. Su Qian opened the security door halfway, revealing a flushed face. What are you doing? I called you to eat. Hey, why is your face red? Jong Nian found the blind spot and tried to squeeze in. What were you doing at home this afternoon? Get out. Su Qian was guarding the door tightly. Jong Nian grabbed her arm with a snap, and Su Qian felt her whole body stiffen, and then she cried and shouted at the Jong family opposite with a loud voice. Auntie, Jong Nian touched me. Well, no, you. Li Hongmei's scolding came from the kitchen. Jong Nian, you are itching, right? Don't bully Qian. I didn't, don't talk nonsense. He was suddenly startled, and squeezed in directly in a panic. Seeing that Su Qian was still shouting, he quickly covered her mouth. Woo woo woo. The two were so close that he could even see the fine hairs on the girl's face. A pair of big watery eyes stared at him, full of panic. The wind in the summer evening was hot, and he could smell the fragrance emanating from Su Qian's neck, which made him feel awkward for some reason. Don't shout. Woo woo. If you don't shout, I'll let you go. Nod if you agree. Su Qian whimpered, then nodded. Jong Nian was bitten just as he let go, leaving a clear tooth mark on his arm. He gasped in pain, but didn't dare to shout out. Su Qian, you were born in the year of the dog, right? Humph, you deserve it. Su Qian turned her head away. There was a faint blush on her face, as if due to the fight just now. Jong Nian then realized that Su Qian's dress seemed to be different. He looked her up and down and was slightly stunned. JK skirt? Newly bought. No wonder she didn't open the door just now, it turned out that she was trying on clothes. But it wasn't a change of clothes. This JK set was not revealing, and the skirt was not short. What was there to hide? Su Qian didn't think so and felt a little embarrassed. What does it have to do with you? Nothing, it's pretty. Jong Nian rubbed his arms and walked out. Come over for dinner later, we have your favorite steamed chicken in lotus leaves. Dong, the door closed. Su Qian stood in her living room, took a deep breath to calm down, then turned back to her room to change clothes. It was 7:30. Zhang Weihong returned home and was stunned when he saw the table full of dishes. He put his briefcase aside. What day is it today? No day, these are all made by your son. Li Hongmei rolled her eyes at him, urged him to wash his hands and eat, and called the two children who were watching TV on the sofa over. It's time to eat, stop watching. After a while, the four of them sat at the table, and Li Hongmei repeated Zhang Nian's previous words. Old Zhang and Su Qian were stunned and looked at Zhang Nian together. Can this make money? Jiang's father asked. Of course, comrade old Zhang. Zhang Nian's face was not red, and his heart was not beating. Is it true? Su Qian looked at him several times. She had never lacked money since she was a child, and her food and clothing expenses were 1 degree higher than Zhang Nian. You are still playing games in your 3rd year of high school, be careful not to fail the exam. When they were young, they had a good relationship, and she often gave Zhang Nian small bread to eat. Later, the relationship was not good, and then they both grew up and didn't like snacks anymore. Hearing this, Lee Hungmei also scolded him with a stern face, and mentioned changing mobile phones again. Old Jong took a chopstick of steamed chicken in lotus leaves, and his face was complicated after eating a bite. Xiao Nian, your grandfather taught you this. Well, is it delicious? Alas, not as delicious as your grandfather's. Zhang Wei's Hung sighed, put down his chopsticks and said, when I was a kid, your grandfather's cooking was the best. After saying that, Zhang Wei's Hung hesitated, forget it, it's all in the past, let's eat. Zhang Nian didn't care, and he didn't have much appetite for the food he cooked. But Su Qianqian seemed to like it very much, and ate 2 bowls of rice for the first time. Ding! The settlement panel appeared. Task: make a sumptuous dinner for your parents. Reward: 800 RMB, completed. Almost at the same time, the phone vibrated. Even though Zhang Nian knew the bank card transfer information, he couldn't help but take out his phone to take a look. He spent almost 400 on buying vegetables, plus the 800 bonus. The total balance now is 1350.64 RMB. By the way, Hungmei, have you paid for the water and electricity? Old Zhang suddenly looked up and asked. No, what's wrong? It seems that our water and electricity are. He said halfway, as if he thought of something, and turned his head to look at Zhang Nian. Have you paid the water and electricity bills? Yeah, what's wrong? Old Zhang was stunned for several seconds. Nothing, keep your money for yourself, there will always be a place to use money when you grow up. When he said this, his eyes glanced at Su Qianqian vaguely. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart, his son was like a dull cow. Obviously, the two families are well matched and know each other well. It's a pity that the two children don't get along, and the forced melon is not sweet. I don't know who will get the cabbage from old Su's family in the end. After dinner, Su Qianqian and Li Hungmei went to wash the dishes, and Zhang Nian cleaned the table. 20 minutes later, a basin of iced watermelon was brought to the table. After eating the watermelon and chatting for a while, Su Qianqian went home. After closing the door, the family of 3 also prepared to rest. Old Zhang sighed, Xiao Nian, which class is Qianqian in? We are in the next class, haha. Hearing Zhang Nian laughing, old Zhang was immediately furious, what are you laughing at? If you are half as sensible as Qianqian, you should thank our ancestors. Zhang Nian was not laughing at Su Qianqian, but the task was refreshed. At the age of 38, you have already overdrawn your body. The body is the capital of revolution. Rebuilding a good body and improving personal charm are the basis for counterattack. Side quest: complete a 2-kilometer long distance run in one breath, no rest, reward, 300 RMB. Complete a 3-kilometer long distance run in one breath, no rest, reward, 700 RMB. Complete a 5-kilometer long distance run in one breath, no rest, reward, 1000 RMB. At night, Zhang Nian took a shower and returned to his room. He turned on the air conditioner and lay on the bed. He opened the panel and smiled. Although Zhang Nian's grades were average, as one of the main players of the school basketball team, he silently ran 5 kilometers for a semester in order to play the whole court. 5 kilometers in one breath, like drinking water. His plan is to get up early tomorrow, run 5 kilometers first, then run 3 kilometers, and finally complete 2 kilometers. After all, he still understands the principle of the first effort will weaken the second and the third will be exhausted. After reading the task, he took out his mobile phone and took a look at the balance of his bank card. Money is a man's courage. The Zhang family is not very well off. Grandpa was in poor health in the past few years. He borrowed a lot of money back and forth, and just paid off his debts this year. In conjunction, Zhang Nian's pocket money will not be too much, at most 300 or 400 a month. But just after an afternoon, there was an extra 1,000 yuan in the card. If he waits until tomorrow to run 10 kilometers, another 2,000 yuan will fall into his pocket, which is equal to 3,000. If you don't spend money, it's useless to earn it. He opened a shopping website called JD.com. He was in his senior year of high school, so even if there was a game company to cover it up, the money came from a legitimate source. But in his parents' eyes, playing games to make money and delaying study was putting the cart before the horse. Although there might be rounds of family trials, Zhang Nian was thick-skinned and had nothing to say. He said that since he had said it, he might as well take this opportunity to buy some. The most intuitive way for ordinary people to save money is 2 sets of combined punches: buy less clothes and shoes. Save water and electricity, and don't buy home appliances, mobile phones, and electronic products unless they are broken. The Zhang family is no exception. Old Zhang and his mother haven't changed their mobile phones, clothes, and shoes for 2 or 3 years. The TV and air conditioner at home are rarely turned on, and the water used to wash rice is used to flush the toilet. Saving is a virtue, but this kind of saving is obviously just to save money. There is no quality of life at all. It can only be said that he lives a tight life. Clothes are not easy to buy, and he can't afford mobile phones and home appliances, so he can only buy shoes. Shoes are the kind of necessities that can be worn for dozens of yuan, but there is a reason why they are expensive for hundreds of yuan. We walk every day, so a good pair of shoes is very important. Zhang Nian first bought a pair of leather shoes for Lao Zhang for more than 500 yuan, and a pair of soft-soled sports shoes for his mother for more than 300 yuan. By the way, he bought himself 2 pairs of shoes for about 200 yuan. After buying a set of shoes, he ran out of money at 1,300 yuan. He looked at the balance, 100 yuan. Forget it, let's go to bed. On the other side, the Zhang couple couldn't sleep. The master bedroom was dark, and the couple talked at night before the bed. Some things that are not easy to say in front of the children during the day can be talked about at night after turning off the lights. Oh, I realized that the child has grown so big in the blink of an eye. Zhang Wei's hugged the back of his head with both hands, lying on the bed and looking at the dark ceiling. He can earn money now, and he even cooks for us. It would be good if Zhang Nian was more sensible, but you are sighing here. Li Hongmei rolled her eyes at her husband in the dark. He would go to the roof and tear down the tiles if he was not punished for 3 days. I hope he can be more sensible, so I can worry less in the future. Now I am worried that his money is not legitimate, and he will go astray at such a young age. Not really, Xiao Nian, I know him, he knows his limits. Zhang Wei's Hung retracted his hand and frowned. I checked the game company, it's quite big. I think it's okay to earn a little money a month, just don't let him get too addicted. The couple chatted for a while, but in the end they didn't come to a conclusion. Feeling sleepy, thinking that he had to go to work tomorrow, he went to bed directly. The next day. It was September, and it was dawn at 5 o'clock in the small county town in the south. Zhang Nian got up early and changed into sneakers. He subconsciously glanced at Su Kinkin's house opposite. The door was closed. Uncle Su was on a business trip, and she was the only one at home. Forget it, be kind and bring her some breakfast. It was a bit cold in the morning. He was wearing a short-sleeved quick-drying shirt, and when he came downstairs, he got goosebumps on his arms. What caught his eye was the not-so-bustling streets and the old self-built buildings. Fuck. On the playground track of Nanjing Middle School, a figure was infinitely elongated in the morning light. Zhang Nian was sweating profusely, and his chest and back were soaked with sweat. Running was not strenuous, and it was not too hot in the morning. Long-distance running would definitely make you sweat. After running 5 kilometers, Zhang Nian's phone buzzed. He raised his phone and saw that the reward had arrived. Oh! It's here. 1,000 yuan arrived, and he unscrewed a bottle of water from his backpack and took a few sips. He stood in the shade of the sycamore tree in the southwest corner to rest and prepare to sprint another 3 kilometers. Soon, the 3 kilometers and 2 kilometers were finished. XX Bank received a transfer of 700 RMB 300 RMB. At this time, Zhang Nian was also a little out of breath. His whole body seemed to have just climbed out of the water. The hair on his forehead was separated, but his eyes were unusually clear. Conservatively speaking, after a rest, he can still run 5 kilometers. Except for not being able to get out of bed the next day, there are almost no sequelae. For some reason, Zhang Nian has no objection to leg training. He doesn't have any big ambitions. As a strong male tall man who has been single since birth. Just like Mr. Ji Xianlin's thoughts when he was young, he only wishes to have more in this life. The autumn wind is high and the sun has just risen. The sunlight on the street is warm and clear. The morning light passes through the gaps between the branches and leaves of the trees, and the Tyndall phenomenon copies the shape of light. Zhang Nian leaned on his bicycle and bought 4 breakfasts before 8 o'clock. The prices in the county town are relatively cheap. Shredded radish and green vegetable buns cost 1 yuan each, a cup of soy milk costs 1 yuan, fried dough sticks cost 1 yuan and 50 cents, and meat buns cost 1 yuan and 50 cents. A total of 30, take it. Ding. Pay. Okay. Breakfast cost a total of 30, a big bag full. Zhang Nian can eat 4 meat buns, 2 fried dough sticks and soy milk, and 2 or 3 vegetarian buns by himself. The 2,000 I just received, plus the remaining 161 yesterday, minus the 30 yuan for breakfast, there is still a total of 2,131 yuan left. There are many people like Zhang Nian who carry big bags of breakfast, but they are all elderly people. They go to bed early and get up early to buy breakfast for their children and grandchildren who go to work or school. The wheels of the bicycle rolled over the dry road, and the young man's flying back was printed in the golden morning light. With a creak, a sudden brake, Zhang Nian jumped off the car. He carried a large bag of breakfast home and happened to meet his mother Li Hongmei getting up. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes were tired from getting up early. It seemed that she was going to make breakfast. Although the prices in Zhenyi's county are already very cheap, it is more cost-effective to make breakfast at home. 4 yuan of rice noodles, chopped chili peppers, green peppers, garlic and shallots, mixed with chili oil, peanuts, coriander, pickled beans, and sauce are enough to fill you up. The curtains in the living room were drawn and the light was dim. Li Hongmei was wearing her mother's brand pajamas that looked like curtains, and slippers on her feet. She looked at her son who came in with a sweaty body and a big bag of breakfast in his hand. "Did you go to buy breakfast?" "Yes, I bought it while running this morning." Zhang Nian nodded and put a big bag of breakfast on the table. "Mom, you don't have to work so hard. I'll take care of breakfast from now on." Li Hongmei herself didn't realize that she was smiling all the way to work by bike. Everything looked good to her, even the sun seemed to be brighter than usual. When she entered the office, her aunt colleague who was in her 40s glanced at her and said, "Hongmei, is there a happy event at home?" "What happy event? What kind of happy event can there be at my age?" Li Hongmei said this, but she stopped walking and paused. This is waiting for the other party to make a joke, one of the strange rules of adult chat. The loud-voiced woman was also very considerate. "What is that? You look so happy, you look 10 years younger." At 8:52, almost everyone in the office of the unit was there. People who were dragging chairs, making tea, flipping through notebooks, and putting out calligraphy practice papers pricked up their ears. "Hey, nothing. It's just that my kid made some money during the summer vacation." Li Hongmei waved her hand. "He was afraid that I would be tired, so he refused to let me make breakfast in the morning." "You spent that money to buy breakfast, and he said that he would take care of breakfast in the future. When they reach middle age, these women in the system have nothing to do but gossip. The only fun is to scold their husbands and show off their children, with a bright face. Your son is sensible now, which is really rare. My son only knows how to play games. The loud-voiced woman spoke, and a stone stirred up 1,000 waves. The older colleagues around echoed a few words, and the young people could not get a word in. The new young man smiled and said, "Auntie Lee, how are your son's grades?" Some people are really gifted, and they can make the topic awkward with just one sentence. Everyone in the office knows that Lee Hungmei's son's grades are average, and it's hard for him to get into college. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door, and Su Qianqian opened the door in a bad mood. It was Zhang Nian. "What's wrong with you so early in the morning?" A breakfast was handed to her. Su Qianqian was stunned for a moment, a little at a loss. "Don't try to bribe me here. Just eat it if it's given to you, aba aba." Zhang Nian sighed. Summer is particularly hard, and a breakfast broke the barrier between the two. Su Qianqian didn't say it, but she was still a little touched in her heart. After all, she was hungry. "Thank you. No need, lend it to me after you finish your homework." Su Qianqian. The dining table was divided into two sides. Su Qianqian ate breakfast slowly on the other side, and Zhang Nian copied homework on the other side. The two were in different classes, but the science papers were the same. He didn't dare to copy all of them, and only copied the answers within his level. When he was free, Su Qianqian squinted his eyes and watched the melting golden sunlight coming through the window, and then glanced at Zhang Nian, who was working hard at the table. "I said, have you ever thought about improving your grades?" Hearing this, Zhang Nian paused, raised his head and frowned. "Yes, but I have two ideas in my head, one is empty, and the other is also empty." Su Qianqian was speechless. "What about your college entrance examination?" Zhang Nian sighed, "I also want to learn, but there are so many homeworks in the third year of high school. The foundation is not solid, and all the time is spent on homework." "That's because you are slow." "Because I don't know how to do it, I am slow." He spread his hands. "After finishing this, it's too late for that subject. What can I do if I don't copy?" Su Qianqian crossed his arms. "Tisk, this is clearly an excuse." Ding. Trigger learning tasks, live and learn until old age. You have just divorced at the age of 38 and are standing at the fork in your life. At the age of 40, a counterattack in life requires not only a strong physique, but also the cultivation of appreciating beauty. Task: have a pleasant conversation with Su Qianqian. Reward: memory bread, 5 hours. In this state, you can quickly memorize knowledge. Zhang Nian stared at the panel, a little confused. The system is issuing some kind of Go BA task progress, so, the future self is pursuing Su Qianqian? He didn't reject it, but he felt that it was a bit strange. No matter what, the reward is important. Su Qianqian, you are right. Zhang Nian suddenly became serious, staring at the girl across the table, and said seriously, "It is easy to give up, but it is difficult to persist. I am not good at English. Since I treat you to breakfast, can you teach me how to memorize words?" He is not really motivated, but he knows very well that Su Qianqian has good English grades. She is the English class representative in their class and gets full marks in almost every exam. What's more perverted is that she not only memorized the 3,500 words for the college entrance examination, but also memorized the 4 and 6 levels. As long as someone asks about English, she will be very happy. Sure enough, Zhang Nian's words tickled her itch, and her eyes narrowed into crescents. "Well, for the sake of breakfast, this princess will be merciful and tell you." After listening to the lecture for 5 minutes, Jong Nian's psychological activities were as follows. Asterisk, worthy of being a full score contestant, there is still something, I understand. 10 minutes. Underscore, she seems to be talking happily, should I interrupt her? 20 minutes. Master, please stop talking, it seems like half an hour. She can talk more than my mother. So, do you remember what I just said? Su Qianqian said with a dry mouth and took a sip of cold soy milk. She taught him all her life skills. I remember it, but not completely. Zhang Nian stood up instantly and walked out directly. Wait for me to think about it, and I'll tell you in the afternoon. Hey. You. Su Qianqian looked at someone's back, her silver teeth were about to break. This person really wasted half an hour talking. Back home, Zhang Nian opened the panel. Task, have a pleasant conversation with Su Qianqian. Completed. Reward, memory bread, 5 hours, in this state you can quickly memorize knowledge. After listening to the half-hour study seminar, I finally got the task reward. Almost instantly, a piece of bread as big as Dolly Yuan appeared in his hand. Good guy, real-time settlement. Zhang Nian touched his chin, he was a pragmatic person. Su Qianqian was right, he couldn't just keep on playing badly, the most important thing at the moment was the college entrance examination. Personally speaking, as a resident of a small county town, Zhang Nian's starting point was a bit higher than that of rural children. At least there was a bottom line, if he couldn't study well, he could come back and find a job with connections. But, this was not what he wanted. Studying is still the best way for ordinary people to change their destiny. Secondly, getting into a good university not only has low tuition fees, but also makes parents stand up straight when they tell others about it. Rote memorization doesn't get you high scores, but it definitely won't get you low scores. If it's 5 hours of memorization time, it's more than enough to browse the 3005 college entrance examination vocabulary. But it would be a waste to spend all the time memorizing words. In fact, you only need to master 70% to 80% of the English words to get good grades. So time should be allocated reasonably. After all, there are also knowledge points that need to be memorized in other subjects. Zhang Nian opened the first page and suddenly couldn't hold it in. Abandon. Photographic memory is an experience. Thanks for the invitation, it feels great. I can memorize English words at a glance, and my mind has never been so clear. But there is no need to memorize English slangs, such as 4 generations living under one roof, family 4.0, hot spring, gila gila water, and third concubine, 3 bitches. It's simple and easy. Zhang Nian was glad that he had the habit of carrying all the important books of all subjects home during holidays. Although he didn't turn a page, he still felt that he had worked hard secretly. Now it's just in time to use it, it feels great, wonderful. Zhang Nian was immersed in the ocean of learning for the whole afternoon. Those bits of knowledge were like huge mayflies and shrimps, swallowed by whales into the sea. Next door, Su Qianqian woke up from her nap in a daze, clenching her silver teeth. It's so noisy. No matter how she covered her ears, Zhang Nian's excited voice would always get into her ears. Hey, I don't know what he is excited about. Could it be the legendary Taoist temple for boys? Su Qianqian, whose father is a male doctor, is not lacking in common sense, but he thinks Zhang Nian is a little crazy. Can you not make such loud noises when watching movies, and tinker with it for so long? It's broad daylight, and I turned off the lights. Zhang Nian passed out after studying in the morning, and felt that his pig brain was a little overloaded. It was not until the afternoon that he woke up after hearing a knock on the door. Hello, courier. He remembered that he received a call from the courier in the morning. He opened the door, and the courier raised the brim of his hat, pulled a small card, and looked at him with a little surprise. Mr. Zhang. Yes. After signing for it, Zhang Nian tried his shoes. The soles of the sports shoes are very soft, 200 yuan a pair, and 1000 yuan to change shoes for the whole family is still a good deal. He was hungry, so he didn't want to continue looking at shoes. He changed a pair and went downstairs to eat. If it were in the past, if he bought new shoes, he would still be hungry for a minute or two longer, but now he still has 2000 cold yuan in his card. 2000 yuan is a huge sum of money, so there will be a few more delays, right? In the evening, Zhang Nian was still sleepy, but he had to prepare to go to school for evening self-study. I don't know if it was because of the breakfast he sent or for other reasons. Su Qianqian actually didn't leave first for the first time, but sat in his living room waiting for him. The last time she did this was in junior high school. Zhang Nian was a little flattered by this. Why are you willing to wait for me? Hearing this, Su Qianqian stood up and was about to leave. Humph. Hey, wait a minute, lady, just pretend I didn't say anything. Zhang Nian was packing his school bag, and hurriedly pulled her back. Please sit down, wait for me for 2 minutes. Su Qianqian looked down at his paws, said nothing and sat back on the sofa, looked up at Zhang Nian throwing the English vocabulary book aside, and couldn't help but said. Zhang Nian, what did you tell me this morning? What do you mean? You didn't even bring your vocabulary book. You said you were going to memorize words in the morning, but you threw the vocabulary book away in the afternoon. Su Qianqian was a little speechless and glanced at him. The college entrance examination only looks at the total score. Your English is so bad, if you improve a few points, you can go to a good college. She didn't say the rest of the sentence. Su Qianqian realized that Zhang Nian's poor grades were enough to make his parents cry. If he improved his English by a few points, he could go to a good junior college. Oh, I can't explain it to you clearly at the moment. Zhang Nian threw out the Chinese, biological, chemical and physics booklets again, which made Su Qianqian's eyes widen. You want to die, Zhang Nian, I'll tell Onley. In the evening of September, the sunset blended with the golden sunset, and the lights on the street were bright. The old street of the small county town was full of 5 or 6-story self-built houses and crisscrossing electric wires. The alley was narrow and dim, and the only advantage was that the buildings did not block the light. Su Qianqian and Zhang Nian walked out of a dim alley. Not far away was Jenny's County Middle School. The area where the two families lived was similar to a shanty town. The two rarely walked together like this, and the atmosphere was a bit strange. When they were about to reach the gate of the county, Su Qianqian, who was half a step behind Zhang Nian, grabbed the strap of his school bag, frowned and hesitated for a while, and said, "You should have less dealings with Zhou Yuding's gang in the future, they are not good people." Zhang Nian agreed with this. Since the last birthday party of Zhou Yuding, he has seen the faces of those people clearly. They completely regarded him as a clown, and kept stepping on him and praising Luffy Peng. There was no special reason, just because Luffy Peng wanted to pursue Zhou Yuding. If you can't elevate yourself, then put others down and use the comparison to highlight your own stability. Zhang Nian has no money and poor grades. He only has a good body and appearance, which makes him the target of public criticism. Su Qianqian just thought of the lotus leaf steamed chicken and breakfast yesterday, although she and Zhang Nian don't get along. But she is soft-hearted, after all, they are playmates who grew up together. Although this poisonous childhood friend of hers is a little stupid, he is not bad and has good cooking skills. No matter what, it is not someone else's turn to bully. In her opinion, Zhou Yuding is a green tea, a pure slut. Only straight men like Zhang Nian will be tricked by Zhou Yuding and be fooled around. She has said similar things before, but Zhang Nian always retorted. Today she only said it for the last time, and she won't say it again in the future. Unexpectedly, Zhang Nian turned around with black hair and eyes, and nodded solemnly. Well, I know. Got it? Su Qianqian was a little confused. When did she get it? She hadn't recovered from the shock until she entered the classroom and attended an evening self-study class. The Zhang family's ancestral graves are smoking, and the licking dog has returned. In the brightly lit classroom, it was so quiet that only the rustling sound of turning pages and doing homework remained. Qian, what's wrong with you? Deskmate Song Ziun poked Su Qianqian's fair arm, which was soft and icy. You've been distracted for almost a class. Is something wrong? Ah. Su Qianqian came back to her senses. No, nothing. She shook her head and wondered what she was doing. She actually wasted an evening self-study class for Zhang Nian. She took a deep breath and lowered her head to do the questions. Zhang Nian was in the next class. The two classes were adjacent, but the levels were very different. Middle school. Students in Zhenyi's County are divided into 4 levels: key assistants, parallel classes, ordinary classes, Olympic Games, and zero classes, from low to high. The key classes are all arranged on the first and second floors, close to the teaching office on the first floor, so it is easy to discipline them if they make noise. The Olympic Games zero class is basically on the third and fourth floors, the pride of heaven. The parallel classes were suffering, and all the students were thrown to the fifth and sixth floors. Su Qianqian's class was the science class for the Olympic Games, and Zhang Nian's class was the parallel science class. He was very lucky to be assigned to the third floor, very close to Su Qianqian's class. The head teacher said that they were absorbing spiritual energy. Zhang Nian disagreed. For the sake of convenience, the two classes had almost the same teacher. If the Olympic class finished teaching the same test paper and then went back to the parallel class to teach, would they get any good results? The evening self-study was silent, and Zhang Nian was busy doing questions. The rewards given by the system were very useful, and after an afternoon of memorization, he had completely memorized the 3,500 words for the college entrance examination, and it was basically not difficult for him to do the English test paper. If I had asked Su Qianqian to borrow the level 4 vocabulary book at that time, perhaps the effect would have been better. Zhang Nian thought about it carefully and felt that it was unnecessary. Skills are more valuable than quantity. The main obstacle at present is the college entrance examination. 3,500 words are enough. It is better to spend the precious memory time on other subjects. At this moment, Zhang Nian, who has the subject memory, can do the questions healthily. Healthy and long-lived. Damn, I still can't do the math formulas after memorizing them. English can be done in seconds, and biochemistry is easier to do than before with subject memory. If I don't do Chinese, it will be useless if I do it. There is still a year before the college entrance examination for physics. Zhang Nian thinks that if he works hard, he should have no problem passing the double non-key exam. There are 3 evening self-study sessions in the classroom. Almost every break, you can hear the fighting laughter from Zhou Yuding's group. Zhang Nian rarely uses such a word to describe a group of people. But that's the fact, coquettish and coquettish. In the intervals between doing questions, Zhang Nian occasionally looked up in that direction. In the past, I should have thrown down my pen and ran over there to join in the laughter. It's not that he wants to be a bootlicker, he just wants to fit in. Even without Zhou Yuding, he would still want to join this living group. To put it bluntly, Zhang Nian is good looking, and he wants to join the group with his appearance. He can't concentrate on learning, and he's not very rich. It's inevitable that he is a little vain under his inferiority complex. Living groups are still very attractive to adolescent boys. There are beautiful women, rich classmates, and boys in the class who have good grades and are fun. Joining them, talking and laughing together, not only can satisfy vanity, but also gain an illusory high-end feeling that does not belong to goblins. Now, Jong Nian doesn't have that kind of childish idea. Maybe he has seen through it, or he has been impacted by the system's worldview. In short, I'm a little tired and don't want to get involved with this group of slutty bitches. The 3 evening self-study sessions were always calm. The head teacher came once in the middle and talked about the schedule and the monthly exam next week and left. It was not until 9:40 that the last evening self-study session ended. Jong Nian followed the crowd out and exchanged glances with Jo Yuting when passing the door. In fact, he was thinking about math problems and his eyes were completely empty. He passed by without stopping. The classroom door was crowded and noisy. It was late September and Jo Yuting was still wearing a pink short-sleeved shirt that showed off her figure. She wore jeans that tightly wrapped her hips. Jenny's County Middle School does not require uniform dress. Only in certain seasons, such as sports games or flag raising on Mondays, will all students be required to wear summer or autumn school uniforms. Girls in their 20s look youthful in anything they wear, not to mention a beauty like Jo Yuting. Her chest was like the soft ridges of spring, and her long and thin legs. She found it hard to believe. She was about to say hello, but he saw her, right? Just passed by like that. They were obviously quite familiar with each other before. She didn't care much about Jong Nian. She only played with him because he was good looking, could play basketball and had a good body. Even if he inexplicably withdrew from her circle, Jo Yuting didn't feel anything. After all, Jong Nian had nothing else that could attract her except his body. 7 or 8 minutes later, Jo Yuting walked out of the classroom with 2 of her best friends. Suddenly, one of her best friends, he CAI, exclaimed. "Isn't that Jong Nian?" Upon hearing this, Jo Yuting and another girl, Luo Wanzan, subconsciously turned their heads to look. They saw Jong Nian standing at the door of the next class, walking with a short girl. They had physical contact from time to time, and they looked very casual. Is he in love? Why haven't I heard him say that? No wonder he doesn't play with us recently. Luo Wanzan sighed and said half-jokingly. She didn't have any bad feelings towards Jong Nian. That girl is from the Olympiad class next door, how could he? Who knows, she looks just average. Jo Yuting was like a proud swan, taking a look at the girl walking with Jong Nian, dressed like an ordinary girl next door. Su Jianqian is very beautiful, and has beautiful clothes at home, but she wears plain clothes at school. To a girl like Jo Yuting, she is just average. Didn't Jong Nian like you before? He CAI had some intention of fanning the flames. Although the 3 of them were best friends, she and Luo Wanzan had a small group without Jo Yuting. Of course, Jo Yuting and Luo Wanzan also had a small group without he CAI. Who he likes has nothing to do with me. Jo Yuting shook her head and walked out of the school. I don't like him anyway. Teach you math. Su Jianqian walked with Jong Nian, and her knuckles were slightly white as she grabbed the straps of her school bag. Why did you suddenly change your personality? The long street in the county town was still lit, bright and dark, stretching towards the sky. She seemed to know Jong Nian for the first time, and she couldn't help looking at him many times. In the afternoon, you threw away the vocabulary book. That's because I remember them all, otherwise you can test me. Jong Nian knew that he couldn't hide this matter, just report a word, within 3,500 in the college entrance examination. Su Jianqian thought about it and reported a simple one. Connect. Connect, Jong Nian reported it without thinking. Su Jianqian was slightly surprised and reported an unpopular one. Stimulate. Stimulate, Jong Nian said fluently. This time Su Jianqian was completely stunned. She stood at the street corner and looked at Jong Nian. The expression on her face was as if she had seen a ghost. She opened her mouth several times but couldn't make a sound. Are you Jong Nian? That's nonsense. If you don't believe me, you can check the goods. He curled his lips and explained, I just wanted to fit into their circle before, so I pretended. You can't say too much. The more you say, the less tenable it will be. This explanation sounded reasonable to Su Qianqian. Because she felt that a person who could cook delicious food must not be stupid. Moreover, Zhang Nian, a fool, would really do such a thing. I don't know what to say to you. Are you worthy of Uncle Zhang and Onley? Su Qianqian was stubborn sometimes, and she was really stubborn when she was twisted. Seeing her stern face, Zhang Nian couldn't help but smile. I know. Haven't I turned back in time? Don't worry, I won't let you teach me in vain. How about I make you something delicious this weekend? Su Qianqian swallowed her saliva a little loudly. I can teach you math for Onley's sake. Forget about food. I'm trying to lose weight recently. Zhang Nian couldn't help but smile when he heard Su Qianqian's words that were not in line with his heart. Suddenly, he heard her ask, do you still like Zhou Yuding now? The night wind blew, and Zhang Nian was silent for 2 seconds under the dim street lights. I don't like it. In the second he hesitated, he actually wanted to say that he hated it, but it was not easy to say such words in front of Su Qianqian. Ding. At the age of 38, you have discovered a potential rival in love. In addition to you, there is someone who is silently watching over Su Qianqian. Because of his poor family background, he never spoke to Su Qianqian from high school to college. Now the other party has a successful career. Mission: defeat the strong rival Zhou Haifei and make him give up on Su Qianqian. Reward: 5,000 RMB. The moment he saw the task on the panel, Zhang Nian was still a little confused. 5,000 yuan? That's right, this guy always looks at the reward first when doing a task, and it doesn't matter what the task is. Because he was on his way home at this time, and Su Qianqian was talking to him again, Zhang Nian only had time to take a look at the reward and hurriedly closed the panel. After owning the system, Zhang Nian's mentality changed. 20 years later, he will get divorced. Following the original life trajectory, he will have a terrible and painful 20 years. Cowardly, inferior, degenerate, accomplishing nothing, and a failed marriage. If the future is destined to be a tragedy, then fuck it. Unknowingly, the two of them went downstairs, and Zhang Nian was about to go up from the dark corridor. Suddenly, Su Qianqian called him, and he couldn't help but look back at her. What's wrong? Return home and say goodbye, realizing that the past cannot be changed. What's next? She asked, and only the vague outline of the girl could be seen in the dark, and her voice was clear. Zhang Nian was stunned. He memorized all the ancient Chinese poems for the college entrance examination and recited them subconsciously. Knowing that the future can be pursued, the lost path is not far away. I realize that today is right and yesterday is wrong. Su Qianqian took a step forward, and the outline of the girl's pretty face became clearer in the dark. The eyes mixed with light and dark were like water, and she said seriously. It's not too late now, everything is still in time. He understood that Su Qianqian was talking about the college entrance examination, but at that moment, Zhang Nian couldn't help but feel a little dazed. The tasks in the system are all related to Su Qianqian. It was still in time when she was 38 years old, but what about now when she was 18 years old? Did you take a detour from the beginning? The person who suits you best may be right next to you. When this thought just came up, Su Qianqian said. I have a set of English papers here. Ahem, I know. Zhang Nian was quick-eyed and quick-handed, and directly pressed down Su Qianqian's operation of taking the papers out of her skull bag. It's getting late, can I look at it tomorrow? Su Qianqian rolled her eyes at him, tossed her delicate ponytail and went upstairs. Whatever you want. After returning home, Zhang Nian threw away his skull bag and planned to take a shower. He also lay on the bed and carefully looked at the panel tasks. But his mother stopped him and asked about the express delivery. "Oh, I bought shoes for you and Lao Jiang. It's a good deal to buy them at a discount. Why did you spend that money? Just buy it for yourself." Mom nagging, "I'm not without shoes. Don't spend money lavishly." Lao Jiang heard this and also came over and said a few words. "It's nothing more than that, it's a good thing to make money. Keep it for yourself. There will be many places to spend money in the future." Zhang Nian covered his ears and ran straight to the bathroom. He didn't listen. Facts have proved that parents are always creatures who say one thing and do another. When Zhang Nian came out of the shower, Lao Jiang's new leather shoes had been oiled and placed on the first shelf of the shoe rack. Mom's shoes were no exception and the shoelaces were tied. He wiped his head and couldn't help but smile and went back to the room. Zhang Nian skillfully turned on the air conditioner and electric fan one by one and dried his head naturally. He picked up the water cup on the table with one hand and opened the system task panel with the other. Huh? Love rival. He glanced at the task description and paused at the sentence that they had never spoken to each other from high school to college. What kind of ruthless person is this? A secret crush, right? Zhang Nian was not surprised at all that someone had a crush on Su Jianqian. He had seen Su Jianqian as an enemy since he was a child. The two knew each other well and there was no distance filter anymore. In the eyes of outsiders, Su Jianqian was a good girl with fair skin, good figure, and good grades. The master bedroom of the Zhang family. Li Hongmei tossed and turned but couldn't fall asleep. Thinking about the shoes her son bought for them and the couple, she couldn't help but touch her husband in the dark. Lao Jiang shuddered and tensed up to pretend to sleep. "Stop pretending, you're awake," Li Hongmei said coldly. "Huh? Hongmei." Lao Jiang turned around, looking like he had just woken up and couldn't open his eyes. "It's so late, the neighbors are all asleep, what's wrong with you?" In one sentence, he maxed out his buffs. Li Hongmei was speechless. "I'm talking to you about serious business. Do you think we should interfere with Xiaonian's gaming? Making money is a good thing, but what if it interferes with his studies? How about we talk to him tomorrow and stop him from playing?" Lao Jiang thought for a while and said, "I don't think it's appropriate." "What's wrong with that? Do you know how important senior year is?" Li Hongmei was anxious and turned over and sat up. "If you don't get into a good university, you will run into obstacles everywhere when you enter the society. I know all this. Don't be anxious. Let me analyze it slowly. Lao Jiang is a slow person and has always been patient. The kid just made money. Who did you think of first? I estimated that Xiaonian spent at least 15 or 16,000. Maybe all the money he earned was spent on us, in our stomachs and on our feet." Hearing this, Li Hongmei's brows relaxed. "Xiaonian is a good child, but good children can't find a job. What will happen if he doesn't go to college? Don't worry, listen to me." Old Zhang put his hand on his wife's shoulder. "Wait until the school's monthly exam next week, and then talk to Xiaonian after the results are out. I say you should praise the child more these days, don't always have a stern face. I know, you are the only one who talks too much." Li Hongmei rolled up the blanket. "Go to sleep, you have to go to work tomorrow, and you keep chattering, making you look great." Old Zhang. The next day, Zhang Nian went out to buy breakfast and brought a portion for Su Jianqian, so the two of them happened to go to school together again. Su Jianqian curled her lips. "If you are too attentive to others for no reason, you are either a traitor or a thief." "Why am I being too attentive to others for no reason? Didn't you promise to teach me math?" Zhang Nian took a few quick steps and followed him. The two of them walked around the narrow alley and arrived at the street outside. "Oh." Su Jianqian took a bite of the steamed bun with a clear conscience, squinted her eyes and took a sip of soy milk. Why do you always buy soy milk? I want to drink strawberry-flavored yogurt. Stop it, soy milk is good for the brain. He said. The street was sunny and the trees were lush. The mottled sunlight fell on the uneven street shops. The breakfast shops were crowded with students, surrounded by white mist. Huh? I haven't heard that soy milk can nourish the brain. Su Qianqian walked in front of him in her white shoes, turned her head and asked curiously, walnut milk can nourish the brain, right? Soy milk is rich in phytoestrogens, which nourishes the baby cafeteria, and naturally nourishes the baby's brain. Zhang Nian thought to himself that it's not nourishing your brain. Who told you that walnuts can nourish the brain? It's completely a psychological effect. Really? The sunlight fell on the girl's hair, and the discussion faded away. Seeing that they were about to enter the school gate, Zhang Nian asked casually and calmly. Hey, is there a boy named Zhou Haifei in your class? Hearing this, Su Qianqian stopped. Boy? Yeah, what's wrong? There is indeed a boy named Zhou Haifei in our class, but Su Qianqian looked at Zhang Nian, her pink lips slightly parted. She is a girl, probably Zhou Haifei. Zhang Nian was stunned. Girl? Your mother? What aluminum copper? Zhang Nian's mind was buzzing all morning. What's going on? A woman? Su Qianqian's words in the morning were still echoing in his ears. My original name on my ID card is Zhou Haifei. Because I'm about to take the college entrance examination, I haven't changed my name. I usually call myself Haifei. Damn, Zhou Haifei is a woman? No wonder she never expressed her feelings from high school to college. Zhang Nian thought to himself, what else can I say? Could it be that I'm good at chemistry, and this is aluminum copper? But after thinking about it, it makes sense. Zhang Nian knows Su Qianqian, and there must be nothing wrong with her orientation. Not to mention a successful career, there is no chance even if the president comes, this is a fact. This system is benchmarked against another future self in another time and space, a 38-year-old loser who has just started a business and failed miserably, competing with a successful person. Besides, the reward for this task is so low, only 5,000 yuan. After the second class, Zhang Nian wandered around in front of Su Qianqian's class and went in directly when he saw that there was no teacher. Generally speaking, skipping classes is not allowed, but it is an exception for those who are thick-skinned. After all, Su Qianqian was ranked high in the Olympiad class and she was also a beautiful girl. No class leader would suddenly jump out like a fool, and outsiders were not allowed to enter. Hey, Qianqian, your childhood sweetheart is here. Go away. The female classmates who were familiar with Su Qianqian joked and immediately became playful. This was a common interaction among high school girls, pointing at a boy and saying your husband, your husband. However, this was not a youth idol drama, and no one would say such stupid words as ex-school grass. Being called husband was often not a glorious title. Su Qianqian blushed and patted her female desk mate. Don't talk nonsense. Zhang Nian looked indifferent, and he stood directly in the aisle. He first talked to Su Qianqian's desk mate, and a few words made the girl happy. One of the benefits of being in the circle is to be good at making friends. But it's useless. Except for Su Qianqian's desk mate, no one would care about this boy in the parallel class. It's not discrimination. The reality is that the school speaks with grades, or looks at family background. Choosing one of the two is good enough, and both will be very popular. What are you doing here? Oh, to ask a math question, this one. Zhang Nian wrote the question on her draft paper. If she didn't know math, she really didn't know it, so she could only ask more questions. Su Qianqian lifted her hair behind her ears and leaned over to take a look. Oh, this one is used. Deskmate Song Ziyun's eyes were bright, circling around Zhang Nian and Su Qianqian, who looked clean and good-looking, and the corners of her mouth unconsciously rose. In the end, Zhang Nian asked one more question. Which one is Zhou Haifei? Su Qianqian frowned imperceptibly, but still told him in a low voice. The one against the wall in the fifth row of the third group. Don't stare at the girl directly if you wear glasses. Zhang Nian, are you a pig? Zhang Nian only glanced at a girl with glasses on the side of the classroom, who looked thin. She lowered her head to do her homework, and her hair covered half of her face, so she couldn't see clearly. It seemed that good fortune had come to her heart, and the girl with glasses also looked up in this direction. His eyes met Zhang Nian's for a moment, and he showed an ordinary face, and then lowered his head as if nothing had happened. After Zhang Nian left, Song Ziun poked his deskmate's waist. Hey, Qian, did you really grow up together? I guess so. I heard that when Li Bai married his childhood sweetheart, he didn't even look back when he entered the bridal chamber. It was probably too embarrassing. Song Ziun's little mouth was pouting, making Su Qian blush. What are you talking about? Li Bai. Song Ziun looked innocent, with a smile in his eyes. What's wrong? Who do you think I'm talking about? Are you? You want to die, Song Ziun? Zhang Nian returned to the class. For the system task, he had no good solution for the time being. She didn't even talk to Su Qian. How could he do it? The most direct way is to make Su Qian have a boyfriend, and only one person can see her, Zhou Haifei. But this kind of thing can only be thought about, commonly known as sexual fantasy. Let's wait and see what happens. For 3 consecutive days, Zhang Nian was busy tutoring math. The first monthly exam of the third year of high school, commonly known as the third year of high school test, will be held tomorrow. Compared with the system's 5,000 yuan, this is obviously more important. He didn't want to stay in this class anymore. The first test has the right to change classes. The top and bottom groups of people in the upper and lower levels will exchange. This is the default rule. As for why he didn't take extra classes in physics, let's just say that if the physics test setters have a slightly more malicious taste, there will be a lot more people in the class who score in the single digits. His physics grades are not bad, about 60 points, so there is no need to waste time. Zhang Nian, why did you start studying? Leg came over with a showy look on his face, sat in front of him and smiled a smile that all boys understand. What stimulated you? Zhang Nian looked up, thinking about what to say. He couldn't just say that I want to stay away from you bunch of jerk. Oh, it's okay, I'm just learning for fun. You're stubborn, this is a typical trait after a breakup. Leg looked like a bamboo pole, and his duck voice was like the no thief in Fruity Robo. Do you still remember that thing? Zhang Nian had a smile on his face, and said something with his mouth, but in his heart he was saying damn it to all of us. Everyone is just joking. Let's find a chance to talk it out. Leg crossed his legs and said with a smile, it's strange to be missing one person. Well, after the exam the day after tomorrow, Zhou Yuding said we're going to have a barbecue together tonight. Do you want to go? Zhang Nian didn't even raise his head. No. Leg was bored and left directly. Zhang Nian sat in front of the desk, clenching the pen in his hand again and again. Suddenly thinking of the past, he felt that he was just an idiot. How could he play with this group of people? In the final analysis, this group of people get together just to show off. They make random comments on others in the previous second. If they are in a bad mood, they will immediately turn a stupid face when asked kindly by others in the next second. This group of people also admire this kind of sudden stupid personality. They think they are cool when they are praised by others. They have a sense of superiority in their hearts and look down on others. In the final analysis, they are just idiots. If they hang out with such people, they will become idiots sooner or later. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Nian continued to review. The next day, the day of the baseline test arrived. The first year of high school was on holiday on weekends, and the vacated teaching building was used as the examination room for the third year of high school exams. Because it involved class division, the school attached great importance to it, and the supervision was unprecedentedly strict. Jong Nian took his stationery bag and found the examination room in advance. The examination arrangement was completely based on the college entrance examination. The first test was Chinese, and the seats in the examination room were very wide. The person sitting in front of me was a quiet girl in summer school uniform with white arms. When passing the test paper, the girl turned around. She had a pretty face, gentle eyebrows and eyes, and wore jeans with a white summer school uniform, which made her skin look very white. When handing over the answer sheet, the bangs on both sides of her cheeks, like brush tips, hung down, as if to cut a cool style out of this sultry summer. At 9 o'clock, the exam officially began. After the test papers were handed out, the girl bent over her desk and began to fill in the information. The sunlight dyed the edge of her ponytail golden. Her hair was slightly split. There was fine hair on her left face when she tilted it slightly, which made her look more peaceful. Jong Nian withdrew his gaze from her pink neck and became cheerful. It would be a lie to say that he was not nervous. Although he had memorized all the knowledge points of the subjects that he could remember, it was an exam that would determine his grade in the senior year after all. But the girl at the desk in front of him was a beautiful girl, which might be a good sign. The 2 days of exam time passed in a flash. The girl at the desk in front of him did bring him good luck, from Chinese to the last subject, English. She performed normally, even a little bit exceptionally. After a while, Jong Nian also knew the girl's name, Zhang Ningzi. She borrowed an eraser for the math test. Before the English test, Jong Nian thought about riding on someone else's luck. He probably wouldn't see her again after the exam, so he thought about it and decided to do something. So while expressing his gratitude, he gave Zhang Ningzi a box of fruit milk. No one would dare to take this outside the school. After all, which girl would dare to drink something handed to her by a strange boy? But in school it is not so risky. Zhang Ningzi hesitated for a moment, said thank you and accepted it. He did not take it to heart. During the last English test, the classroom was so quiet that only the rustling sound remained. Smelling the smell of ink coming from the test paper, Zhang Nian's hands trembled a little. It was probably because this was the last test, or it could be because of the half-wet short-sleeved shirt. The mountain wind blew outside the door, causing his row of snow-white teeth to knock together, feeling sour and numb. His heart was beating like a drum, and his head was burning. It's okay, Chinese is estimated to be at least 100, math should be 100, and comprehensive science is more than 210, he muttered softly while doing the test paper. Get 20 points for English composition, 10 points for listening, and 130 for English is a sure thing. 540 is just his estimate of the minimum score. It is not a particularly high score for a paper with a full score of 750, but it is already very high in the parallel class. If these few exams are really the college entrance examination, it will be more than enough to get into a non-key university. Zhang Nian estimated that after this baseline test, he should be able to get the first place in the class. If everything goes well, it should not be a problem to be promoted to the Science Olympiad class. At 4:30 in the afternoon, everyone left the examination room and packed up their things to go back to the classroom to tidy up their desks. The weekend exams lasted 2 days, and the original Sunday evening self-study was used as a holiday. That is to say, from now on, the whole night is free. In the classroom in the chaos, some people chose to go straight to the internet cafe, while others chose to return to their seats before leaving. The classroom, the corridor, and the entire senior high school building were extremely noisy and lively. Some people were discussing test papers. Some people gathered around the teacher to chat, clapping their hands from time to time or beating their chests in regret. There were also many students who changed classes, and there were many new faces in the class. Some people were either checking calculations in front of draft papers, or talking and laughing loudly, or making an appointment to go to the internet cafe. Jong Nian bent down and lifted his heavy basket of books easily. Just as he straightened up, he saw Zhou Yuding walked in, looking around the classroom, probably looking for someone to move books. When they passed by, Zhou Yuding stopped him. "Jong Nian, can you help me move the books? They are too heavy for me to move." When the opposite sex who is actually breaking up but not nominally breaking up asks you for help, it's best to pretend not to hear it. Jong Nian turned a deaf ear and walked 2 steps forward before looking back. "Ah, you called me. Well, can you help me move the books?" Zhou Yuding said. She was wearing a white cotton skirt because she had an exam on the weekend. "By the way, help Yingying move the books." Sun Yingying was Zhou Yuding's fake bestie and was interested in Lu Fipeng. "Oh, why don't you ask Leg to help you?" Jong Nian glanced at her and raised his lips. "He would definitely be happy to help you move the books." Zhou Yuding choked when she heard that. She certainly knew that Leg would help her. But Leg was too annoying, and Jong Nian wouldn't nag, and he was also good looking. Although Zhou Yuding would not consider finding a poor man like Jong Nian as her boyfriend, if she had another good-looking dog, it would also raise her value. "He's so annoying, it's better to ask you." Jong Nian wanted to mention the last birthday party for her and take the opportunity to mock him back. But then he thought that he was about to be promoted to a higher class, so why bother talking about it? He couldn't win even if he made a girl cry. "Well," he responded coldly, turned around and left with the book basket. Zhou Yuding stood there, originally thinking that Jong Nian would come back to help her after putting down the books. As a result, she waited for a long time but no one showed up. When she went out to take a look, she was almost angry. Jong Nian went to the next class to help a girl move books. She swore that she would never look at Jong Nian straight in the eye again. She would never say a word to him again. Did she think that she would be worried about gains and losses? "No need, I can move it myself." Su Qianqian looked at the eyes around her, a little embarrassed. "They will ask you to move it together later. Move it if you want, it's easy." Jong Nian looked indifferent. "That won't work, their books are too heavy." Su Qianqian frowned. "Just go ahead and wait for me at the school gate, I'll be there soon." Unconsciously, Su Qianqian has become accustomed to going home with Jong Nian. "Okay." After moving the books, Jong Nian left the teaching building and looked back at his class. Suddenly, I felt a little excited, looking forward to the day when the results come out. Today is Sunday, and all the results should be out tomorrow, and the class change will be next week. After a while, Su Qianqian came out with her schoolbag on her back, looked around and found Jong Nian. So she tightened the straps of her schoolbag and walked towards him. Some classmates nearby saw the scene and couldn't help but stop and watch. I thought I could see some early love gossip, but he just walked away so calmly and took out the test paper. "Can you get 540 this time?" She frowned and asked. "I heard that under normal circumstances, the lower level shift change must be 550 to be stable enough." The two walked side by side, and Jong Nian almost had a cardiac arrest when he heard it. "No, buddy, I have cheats, so I wouldn't play like this, right? You people in the Olympic science competition. Everyone is Ultraman 7, don't you have a few connections?" When Su Qianqian learned of Jong Nian's superficial thoughts, she couldn't help but snorted. It's because of connections that they need higher scores. People can stay in the Olympic science competition with 400 points. What does shift change have to do with them? It's too realistic. This is how the human relationship society in a small county is. Okay, let me check the English answers with you. Jong Nian took a deep breath. How did you do in the English test this time? Still full marks. Su Qianqian snorted, revealing 3 parts of sarcasm, 3 parts of complacency, 3 parts of carelessness, and 1 part of pride. What do you think? Neatly cut the wires at dusk, and night fell quietly. Come on. Let's do it. There was smoke outside the barbecue restaurant, and the big blower blew the smoke into the sky. On the artificial turf, there were more than a dozen large wooden round tables and a circle of pink plastic chairs. Under the bright spotlight, 8 or 9 students clinked beer glasses. Why didn't Zhang Nian come? Someone asked. He has no money, who knows him? A boy said carelessly, and the small hot pot on the table was bubbling and steaming. He hasn't talked to us these days. Leg sat in his seat, his face a little embarrassed. He had a good relationship with Zhang Nian and knew the reason. Seeing that the topic was getting more and more off topic, he couldn't help but explain. Hey, it's about what happened last time. He heard it when everyone was joking. Zhang Nian may be a little upset, just talk it out. What's there to say, he can come or not? Zhou Yuding suddenly said. Ah. Leg didn't expect Zhou Yuding to speak, and he was embarrassed. This group of people originally played together around Zhou Yuding, and now Zhou Yuding has spoken. The rest of the people naturally became more aggressive, and they belittled Zhang Nian. A poor guy is a poor guy, what's wrong with saying a few words to him? That's right, why pretend to be so fragile? What's the point of someone who can't even take a joke? He can come or not, do we need the student council to coax him? Zhou Yuding is a student council member, and her grades have always been in the top 5 in the class. Her family is rich, she is smart, has a good figure, and knows how to play, so she has always been very popular with the opposite sex. It's true that Leg likes Zhou Yuding, but he heard the people at the table belittling Zhang Nian. I thought it was just a few simple words, but later I found out that they even brought up my mother. They still kept scolding, and they got more and more excited and more excessive. Haha, there's no need to do this, right? What do you mean there's no need? Did we say anything wrong? A poor guy is a poor guy gives birth to a poor guy, and there's nothing big in his life. Even though Leg and Zhang Nian's relationship was actually just like that, and he didn't want to sing a different tune in front of Zhou Yuding, he couldn't control his temper when he heard it. With a bang, Leg stood up suddenly and said angrily. Fuck. You are fucking sick. Zhang Nian wouldn't be a family member if he didn't come. People who don't know would think that Zhang Nian killed your mother. I can't stand you idiots. It's better to be friends with dogs than you. Go drink your fucking wine. Leg cursed in one breath, took 300 yuan, turned around and left without even looking at everyone. There was a dead silence at the table. After a few seconds, someone reacted. He stood up with a beer bottle, stared at Leg's back as he left, and shouted with red eyes. Idiot! Don't leave if you dare! What are you doing? Zhou Yuding was dissatisfied and glared at the man. Everyone has left, what's the point of saying these things? But sit down. Zhou Yuding crossed her arms and glanced at him. Do you know who Leg's father is? If you do this, you won't be able to get out for 15 days. Don't you want to study? Luffy Pen was holding a wine glass and drinking slowly, listening to the words at the table with a smile. The raised corners of his mouth not only mocked Zhang Nian, but also mocked the other boys present. A bunch of poor and stupid dogs, do you think you can win the favor of the goddess by excluding Zhang Nian? He saw it clearly, Leg's father was the leader of the county public security bureau. Although he was usually effeminate, he was quite brave. This also made Luffy Pen look up to Leg. At least he was not one of those brainless lickers, and he was qualified to compete with him. And he knew that Zhou Yuding attached great importance to background and would not alienate Leg because of this little thing. After the relationship eased in a few days, he would still persuade him to come back. The cake of victory should be enjoyed by a steady and capable person like me. Ahem. Luffy Peng smiled and broke the dull atmosphere. How did Yuding do in the exam this time? Is there a hope for promotion? With one sentence, the atmosphere at the table returned to normal. Zhou Yuding frowned. I did okay, but I don't know if there is a chance. It's okay. Luffy Peng smiled and looked like a calm elder brother. I asked around. The exam is generally difficult. Maybe 530 points can be promoted. Really? Zhou Yuding's eyes lit up. I estimate 510 points. If I'm lucky, I may have a chance to touch the 530 line. Well, it doesn't matter even if it's a little bit worse. Luffy Peng smiled and mentioned casually, my father is quite familiar with our grade director. He said this today. If it doesn't work, I can help you speak up. Okay, then thank you in advance, Brother Peng. Zhou Yuding looked well behaved. The educational resources of the Olympiad class are completely different from those of the parallel class. It's not that the teacher is partial, but the foundations of the two levels of classes are different. Zhou Yuding has always been ranked in the top 5 in the class. The head teacher talked to her last week. Let her prepare well for the exam and strive to be promoted to the Olympiad class to attend classes. If she can be promoted and gain a foothold in the Olympiad, basically, she can get into a first-class university and have a chance to get into a key university. She has always wanted to go to the seaside city of Luda to study. Under the light, Zhang Nian opened the white box and took out the ointment with a solemn expression. After opening the lid, a strong smell of medicine hit his face. He turned around and shook his head. Why did you sprain your foot? Su Qianqian, were you thinking about love when you went upstairs? Su Qianqian, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room of the Su family, gritted her teeth when she heard this. You are thinking about love. It's because of the mice. The mice are so cute, but you are afraid of them. Zhang Nian sighed, walked in front of her, and looked down at her, tisk tisk. Su Qianqian was angry at his task tisk and threw a pillow at her. Go away. I'll apply it myself. That won't work, old Su hasn't finished work yet, I have to help you apply the medicine. Zhang Nian sighed, besides, how can I miss such a good opportunity? Baby, I'll be gentler. Su Kinkin's face turned pale visibly, no girl is not afraid of pain. Leave it alone, I'll do it myself. Sprains must be treated immediately, you don't have enough strength and will leave bruises. Zhang Nian pulled a small stool and raised his eyebrows, bring your stinky feet over here. You have stinky feet. If you don't believe me, smell it. Su Qianqian reluctantly stretched out her snow-white little feet. Probably because girls are keen on washing their feet, there is no dead skin on the entire sole of the foot. Instead, it was red with a hint of pink, and the toes were curled up like snow-white dumplings. As Su Qianqian stretched her legs on the sofa, the edge of her pajamas tightened, outlining her bulging mounds, which looked particularly seductive. Zhang Nian only took a glance and then looked away, wondering when it had grown so big. He poured some traumatic oil on the palm of his hand and applied it to the edge of Su Kinkin's swollen ankle with great concentration. He used some force and then spun it in circles. Hiss. Su Qianqian took a breath of cold air, be gentle. Well, who told you to go upstairs without looking at the road? Zhang Nian lowered his head and massaged his ankle seriously, and vaguely saw the blue veins covered under the snow-white skin. A thought suddenly popped up in his mind, if he wore white silk. It would not work, this is Su Qianqian. Zhang Nian couldn't help shaking his head to get rid of the messy thoughts in his mind. It's not impossible to be a childhood sweetheart, but he didn't expect Su Qianqian to have a girlish taste. Can you blame me for this? I told you. There are mice. She pursed her lips and looked down. The air was filled with the strong smell of medicated wine for traumatic injuries. The boy who was massaging her feet had a back as straight as a young poplar, his shoulders were level, and his black hair was lush. A thought suddenly popped up in her mind: should I go to watch him play basketball next time? No, no, what on earth am I doing? This is Jong Nian. The most annoying Jong Nian. What's wrong with having mice? It's a life of mice. Jong Nian didn't continue talking, but changed the subject. Have you estimated the score? How many points can you get this time? Well, 630. Abnormal, why don't you stay in class 0? Jong Nian was shocked, and the speed of rubbing his hands increased. The sprained surface had already warmed up. Su Jianqian thought for a while, I don't want to move. I'm used to it. After applying the medicine, Jong Nian went back to his house opposite to sleep. After he left, Su Jianqian fell asleep on the sofa in a daze, and the sound of keys came from the door. Su Zuan dragged his tired body off work, pushed the door and shrugged his nose, and then saw his daughter sleeping on the sofa. Dad. Su Jianqian woke up in a daze and rubbed his eyes. You're off work. He was about to get up, but was stopped by Director Su. What's wrong with your foot? I twisted it when I went upstairs, and I've applied medicine. Su Jianqian limped to his feet and forced a smile on his face. Look, it's okay. Director Su hummed and told him to continue applying medicine tomorrow. The next day, Jong Nian got up early as usual and went downstairs to buy breakfast. Before going upstairs, he saw from afar that old Su drove to work early. His parents were not awake yet, so he put the breakfast on the table and went to the opposite door to apply medicine to Su Jianqian. There was morning self-study at 7:30 in the morning. Su Jianqian had already washed up with her sprained foot. Are you feeling better? He put the breakfast there, squatted down, and began to look for medicinal wine for traumatic injuries. Why did Uncle Su go to work so early? There is a project in their department and they have been busy. Su Kinkin's eyes dimmed for a moment. Oh, is your father busy? Your other father will apply medicine for you. You die. Su Jianqian kicked him with his other unsprained foot. The two of them started to quarrel with each other, and the atmosphere became joyful again. Downstairs, Su Jianqian was carrying a school bag and looked at Jong Nian, who came over on a small electric bike, in surprise. If you ride away, how will Onley go to work? Get on, you're so long-winded. Jong Nian braked impatiently. Old Jong is not going to work today, he's driving my mom to work. You're the long-winded one. Su Jianqian got on the back seat but was still angry. After thinking about it, she opened Jong Nian's WeChat chat box and changed Jong Nian's note annoying guy to long-winded annoying guy. Just after leaving the alley, Jong Nian braked suddenly. Su Jianqian was caught off guard and hit him directly on the back, and the soft ridges compressed fiercely. Her pupils shrank and her face suddenly turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. Jong Nian, you want to die? Wait, I'm thinking. Jong Nian clicked on the panel that only he could see, and looked at the words mission completed, and couldn't help but be confused. Task: defeat the strong rival Zhou Haifei and make him give up on Su Jianqian. Reward: 5,000 RMB, completed. The phone buzzed, and the bank card balance changed from 2131 to 7131 RMB. Looking around, the streets were almost full of students attending morning self-study classes. The flag was going to be raised on Monday, and school uniforms were required. What caught his eye was a large area of white summer uniforms. Jong Nian thought about it but still had no idea, so he simply ignored it. Did you do that on purpose just now? Su Jianqian asked faintly in the back seat. No, there was a mouse in front of the car and it scared me. Jong Nian was a little absent-minded and made up a story. I was afraid of running over it and the red and white would explode together. Ugh. Su Jianqian punched him and said angrily, "Don't say that." The flag-raising ceremony was over, and the papers were distributed starting from the first Chinese class. Zhang Nian lay on the table, still a little confused. How could the glasses girl and the copper brother just give up like that? It seems that he didn't have time to find her for anything. At such a young age, he gave up on love. Oh, wonderful. Zhang Nian's understanding of love is actually quite superficial, as he is a man who will be divorced in the future. Instead of having love, it is better to make more money and have more girls when you have time. If you are poor, you can protect yourself alone, and if you are rich, you can help the world. On the podium, the Chinese teacher was handing out papers and reading out several scores that were above the passing line. Zhou Yuding scored 90, Ren Dong scored 104, Chen Lili scored 117. Suddenly, he paused again. Zhang Nian scored 110. As soon as these words came out, the class suddenly became agitated. The first few students were all regular high scorers in Chinese. Only Zhang Nian, who scored around 80 points, how could he score 110? Well, in fact, only the people around Zhang Nian were in a commotion. Is this true, Zhang Nian? You filled in your father's student number, right? It's over, Zhang Nian has taken off after not seeing him for a summer vacation. Damn, it hurts more than killing me. Please tear up the paper, buddy, or I'll eat a pound of oliga, and you admit that you copied it, okay? Using jokes to cover up your habit, you come here to get free food and drinks, right? The classmates were just joking. The more you copy in Chinese, the fewer points you will get. Zhang Nian had a calm face when he went to the podium to get the test paper, but he was actually very proud of himself. He actually scored 10 points more than the expected score in Chinese. It was a good start. The Chinese teacher was still giving a lecture on the podium. Is Chinese getting harder and harder? Where is it harder? Sometimes when you get a low score, look for your own reasons. Have your grades improved in such a long time? Did you practice the questions seriously? Chinese has always been this difficult. I really don't know how to teach you. In the classroom, Zhou Yuding turned her eyes away from Zhang Nian and frowned slightly. How did he score so high? But she didn't care much. In subjects like Chinese, sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you fail. The third and fourth periods were math classes. The test papers were handed out. The math teacher was a young teacher with a hot temper. After a temper tantrum, he began to hand out the test papers, and students went up to take them one by one. When it was Zhang Nian's turn, the math teacher nodded. 112, not bad, a lot of progress. There were too many math-biased warriors, and Zhang Nian's 112 points were like scum, but it didn't attract much attention. Only Zhou Yuding frowned more and more, with a vague bad premonition. At noon, Zhang Nian found Su Jianqian and helped her apply the medicine again in a secluded place. Su Qinqian's deskmate Song Ziun followed her all the time, with stars in her eyes and a shy smile on her face. Damn, she is sick. In the afternoon, the results of the 3 subjects of physics, chemistry, and biology were released one after another. Zhang Nian's science score added up to exactly 210, which was about the same as the estimated score. Thanks to Wenba for the 1000 starting coins reward, the boss has a good waist and kidneys. The science score is 210, with an average of 70 points per subject. If it is in the Olympiad class, it can only be said to be average, but it is amazing in the parallel class. In terms of science alone, it can at least be ranked in the top 10 or even the top 5. 5 of the 6 subjects are shining. Someone took the report cards of the 5 subjects and added them up to make a ranking. At present, there is a name that has never appeared in the top 5. Zhang Nian, 432 points, rank 2nd. The god of war Wang Ji, who ranked ahead of him, had 210 points in science, 87 points in Chinese, and 140 points in mathematics, adding up to a total of 437. Zhou Yuding ranked third, and all subjects were very average. The science score was also an extraordinary 200, the Chinese score was average 90, and the mathematics score was 110, a total of 400 points. This is the norm for parallel science classes, with weak foundations and serious bias in subjects. In the afternoon, Zhang Nian applied medicine to Su Qianqian. Song Ziun has been squatting beside her and watching with a shy smile on her face. Zhang Nian rubbed it for a while, and Song Ziun giggled like a mouse. "I say, sister, are you horny?" He couldn't stand it. "Hey, Qianqian, look at how he speaks without any care." Song Ziun threw herself on Su Qianqian and acted like a queen who wanted to make decisions for her servant. "He's not always like this, just don't provoke him." "Well, I understand, forbidden food." Su Qianqian couldn't hold it anymore, pinched Song Ziun, and said unhappily, "What are you talking about?" He. Song Ziun watched with relish, turned around and asked Zhang Nian, "You still say it's not forbidden food? You've already applied the medicine. I've only seen this plot in love dramas." "Watch less dramas, there's no hope." Zhang Nian opened his dead fish eyes. "Zhang Nian, do you like Qianqian?" Hearing this, Zhang Nian paused his movements, and Su Qianqian's cheeks suddenly flushed imperceptibly. "Yun Yun. Why do you ask that?" Zhang Nian asked. "Because usually only couples do this, why else would you do it?" Song Ziun smiled, she just wanted to watch the fun. The more she watched, the more she felt it was fun. "Oh, because she calls me daddy, you call me daddy, I'll massage your foot if you sprain it." Zhang Nian didn't care. Su Qianqian couldn't stand these two people anymore, and just when she was about to stop them, she heard a crisp voice. "Dad." The air froze at this moment, and Zhang Nian and Su Qianqian looked at Song Ziun together. Song Ziun blinked her eyes and looked at the two of them shyly. "I'll just lively-ize the atmosphere." "Damn. The atmosphere has become even weirder, okay." After applying the medicine, Zhang Nian left, leaving Su Qianqian to explain to Song Ziun seriously. "For example, it's not a special relationship, it's just a mathematical transaction." "Song Ziun, say more, I love to listen." Evening self-study. This incomplete total score ranking was circulated in the class. When a group of classmates saw that Zhang Nian ranked second, they couldn't help but be extremely surprised, and an idea inevitably came to their minds. Could it be that he cheated? I haven't seen him for a summer vacation. Maybe he enrolled in a cram school or studied at home. That's right. It's the same with my friend's class. He had average grades last semester, but after a summer vacation, his grades shot up as soon as he entered his senior year. That's amazing. I have a little news. I heard that Zhang Nian was stimulated during the summer vacation. I love to hear this gossip. Tell me in detail. Zhou Yuding listened to the discussion around her from a distance, and her brows furrowed even deeper. She glanced in Zhang Nian's direction. Could it be that Zhang Nian was really stimulated by her? Now the English results have not come out yet, and there is basically only one place for the parallel class to be promoted. The English score of Wang Ji, who is currently the first, can be said to be a mess. It is a great honor to be able to get more than 60 points. When the English results come out, the total score will definitely not exceed 500. And I have 400 points, and I can reach that line. With 130 points in English. As for Zhang Nian, his English score has been hovering around 60 or 70 points. Unless he gets 100 points, he will have a hope to compete with me, but this is impossible. Zhang Nian was a little absent-minded. He yawned while correcting the wrong questions. The task was completed, and there are now 7,000 yuan in the card. For a high school student, what is the concept of 7,000 yuan? It's like a popular player waking up from a sleep and finding 300,000 gold coins in the mailbox. I really want to go back to the past, take out the money and slap those idiots in the face, but I am a little reluctant. While I was thinking about it, there was a ding in my mind. At the age of 38, you have changed your image in advance for a date and made up your mind to lose weight. Task: get a gym membership and buy at least 30 classes. Reward: 20,000 RMB. Looking at the tasks on the panel, Zhang Nian thought that his future self would be really troublesome. I have to go to the gym to lose weight, can't I just find a park to run and be done with it? Some people get ruthless and even scold themselves. Fortunately, the task only requires signing up for a gym and buying classes, and does not require a certain amount of weight to be lost or to attend classes. After all, it is already the perfect weight. How can I lose weight, and I have to go to class every day, so where would I have time to run outside? Otherwise, Zhang Nian would probably be tortured. Zhang Nian has decided to sneak out during the evening self-study to ask where there is a gym. Asking for leave is not a problem, anyway, I have to go to the next class. English is at least 130 points, if I can't go up to 560 points, damn it, don't go up at all. Destroy it. In the office, the head teacher stared at Zhang Nian and adjusted his glasses. Are you sick and asking for leave? Met. Zhang Nian looked like he had kidney deficiency. The head teacher's eyelids twitched. He usually turned a blind eye to students who lied about sick leave. This was especially true for good students. He pulled over the report card for Zhang Nian's exam this time. 432. Not even the English score. The head teacher thought about Zhang Nian's English score last semester. Too mediocre. I really don't have much impression of him. Zhang Nian, you did well this time. Did you work hard during the summer vacation? Yes, I read some books. Zhang Nian scratched his head and pretended to have kidney deficiency. He also subtly hinted to Zhong Den, you stayed up late to study during the summer vacation. Alas, your stomach has a root cause of disease. Oh, then you have to take care of yourself. The head teacher rejected his performance and shook the paper. How was your English score last semester? About 60 or 70 points. Zhang Nian was a little anxious. What about this time? How much do you expect to get? More than 100 points. Zhang Nian reported a conservative number. The head teacher's hands trembled, and he suddenly realized something when he added up the total score. His tone suddenly became bleak. What did you say? Nothing, I did well in the exam. The head teacher forced a smile, and no longer had the fun of asking questions, bring me the leave note, and be careful. On the third floor, a certain Olympiad class. Su Qianqian looked at Song Ziun coming back with red eyes, and a worried look appeared on her face. What's wrong? My mom asked me to wait for her after school and take me out for a midnight snack. Song Ziun said, I kept asking, and she said she was going to quit the gym. I knock, where can I find a gym at night? Zhang Nian stood in front of the long street in front of the school gate, under the dim street lights, and opened the map on his mobile phone. Generally, gyms with ambition will update on the map. Sunshine Fitness Studio. Such a trendy name, but it is closed. Beaver. There is none within 3 kilometers, but within 5 kilometers. After searching for a long time, Zhang Nian really found one. The name is Wisno Fitness Studio, which is 4.2 kilometers away from Jenny's County Center. It must be 5 kilometers away when you click on it. He felt his pocket and found that he didn't bring the electric bike key, so he scanned a shared bicycle and rode out in a flash, just as a leg exercise. 20 minutes later. Outside a two-story gym with lights on, Jong Nian parked his car with a sneer on his face. A boss who earns 7,000 yuan is still a boss, don't treat tofu as a dish. This Gaoba shared bicycle has no brakes, and I found it when I rode into the ditch. The road in the small county town is really bumpy, and it's unbearable to look at 5 kilometers away. He wiped the blood from his elbow, it wasn't serious, just a little red and swollen. When this little bitch's bicycle went into the ditch, it squeaked louder than himself. He looked down at the stains on his body, but didn't care about it anymore. Entering the gym, he was greeted by the reception desk, where a beautiful woman in her 20s stood. She glanced at Jong Nian, who was still wearing the Jenny's County Middle School uniform and was dirty. She just took a look and didn't take the initiative to speak. It was almost time to get off work, and a kid from the county came, and there were no adults outside. What are you worrying about? Can you still make money? This is the sense of relaxation that belongs to a small county town, and you can serve different people to different people. Jong Nian was too lazy to pay attention to her, and saw a beautiful young woman wearing pink yoga pants in the rest area. She was wearing a white vest with strong capital, and she was dressed like a female fitness coach. He simply walked towards her. After all, who has to apply for a card? The female receptionist turned her head and noticed it, but didn't do anything, and raised her voice. You can't enter without a card. Jong Nian had already fallen down, and his purpose was to give money to the gym. He bought the membership card and bought the class just to complete the task, so he definitely won't attend the class. Hearing this tone, he immediately felt unhappy. Aren't I just here to get a membership card? Upon hearing this, the beautiful young woman in pink yoga pants who was sitting suddenly stood up, and Jong Nian glanced at her. The latter just glanced at him and walked away with a cold face. Damn, what a rubbish gym. Jong Nian turned around and wanted to leave. He opened a fitness center like Nyema, so pure and unselfish, he might as well open a temple. But he took out his mobile phone and looked down. It was almost 9 o'clock. Usually at this time, even if there was a gym, it would be closed. Damn it, he just didn't want to waste time and skipped the evening self-study and ran out. If he worked in vain, he would explode. Hello, please. A weak voice sounded, handsome guy, are you going to get a membership card? Jong Nian turned around and saw that a female fitness coach was randomly refreshed in the rest area. She was wearing that kind of conservative gray yoga clothes, with a well-proportioned figure, not as good as the peach yoga pants just now. Tisk, stupid young woman, how can this hook students? There aren't many people who exercise in the county town, and perhaps there are more people who exercise seriously in the gym in the city. In a small county town, unless it's a rigid demand, it's usually a little bit borderline. However, it's decided to be you. It's me. Jong Nian said in a steady voice, I don't have much time, can I go in and talk? It's okay, but the good-looking female coach said, looking a little embarrassed, handsome boy, come here and I'll talk to you. At this time, a long tone came from the front desk again. No card, no entry. Knock your mother, I'm here to apply for a card. Jong Nian couldn't stand it, turned around and said, don't you understand what I'm saying, your mother's stinky bitch. How can you curse at me, a student? The fairy at the front desk couldn't stand it, and stood up and said. What's wrong with scolding you, I'm still calling your boss. Jong Nian cursed, after all, young people have some temper, if you don't make money, knock your mother. Do you want to verify your capital? FKU. Come, let me show you if your dad has enough money to buy you a membership card for this crappy gym. What's your name? Your dad is Zhao Fi Peng, drafting, looking for someone. Jong Nian changed to dialect, my uncle is from the anti-gang office, why don't you try to get someone? Zhang Nian didn't bluff, his mother works in the unit, and his uncle is in the Public Security Bureau. Although I don't know what position he holds, I heard that the anti-gang office is somewhat related. Leg's father is also in the Public Security Bureau, and he is in the same system as Zhang Nian's uncle, so the two have a good relationship. But Zhang Nian usually doesn't want to mention this relationship. His uncle is always serious, and Zhang Nian is not too close to him. It would be too embarrassing if he really called his uncle here. After Zhang Nian changed to dialect, the fairy at the front desk became honest. You were not allowed in because you didn't have a card, aren't you wrong? She muttered. Little fairies are like this, they look down on others and then it's someone else's fault. If you feel wronged, go find your husband. If you know you can't afford to offend him, just use the percentage responsibility system. Your mother, Zhang Nian was so angry. Damn, I came out to give money and ended up running into an idiot. In the rest area, the good young woman has come out. She has a small bag on her body, puts the card and folder at the front desk, and speaks softly in a low voice. Wen, I have completed the resignation procedures, and everything is here. The female receptionist didn't say a word, still sitting there with a dark face, her face was as stinky as if her mother had died. Seeing this, Zhang Nian wanted to scold, and he clasped his hands together to open the dust escape. Handsome man. The young woman pulled Zhang Nian, with a soft smile on her face. Sorry, can you come out with me for a while? I want to apply for a card, right? He originally wanted to break free, but when he heard about applying for a card, he stopped immediately. Didn't you resign? The good young woman was embarrassed, and whispered to Zhang Nian. I joined a new gym. Oh, praise for seamless connection. Outside the gym, the young woman looked apologetic. I'm sorry, handsome boy. Wen might not be in a good mood today. Don't bother with her. I'll apologize to you on her behalf. What do you think? You've resigned, why should I apologize for her? Zhang Nian squinted. I'm sorry. Can you say anything else besides sorry? Handsome boy, I'm sorry. Zhang Nian pressed his head. Forget it, apologize if you want. Hearing this, Zhao Kaiuxia was a little embarrassed. She originally wanted to apologize to eliminate the other party's resentment. Finally, she asked the handsome boy if he wanted to apply for a membership card. She had already joined the new gym. But now it seems unrealistic. Yes, if I was treated like this, I would probably be angry. Young people care about face, so I'd better not mention the matter of applying for a membership card, so as not to make him unhappy. It's just a pity that it's shameful for me to change jobs in a gym. If I work for a month and have zero performance, I'm afraid I won't be able to stay in the new job for long. Just when she was secretly sad, Zhang Nian became a little impatient. Didn't you say to apply for a membership card? I want to spend money, I'm in a hurry. Zhang Nian was speechless. He met a silly girl when he went out. It's okay to meet a stupid front desk. He finally caught a female coach who changed jobs, but she was a piece of wood that jumped when poked. Apologize. Is it just an apology? Your business level would be shabby in Japan. Service first, why don't you talk about applying for a card? It's so annoying, you have to take the initiative to spend money. Zhao Kaiuxia was confused and said a word subconsciously. Ah. The irritable Zhang Nian finally stopped being irritable. Su Qianqian turned around and asked curiously before opening the security door and entering the house. Why are you so happy tonight? Oh, I found money. Nervous. The door closed with a bang. Su Qianqian's foot injury has healed a lot, and she can apply medicine by herself. It doesn't matter if you don't press it hard, it will heal in a day or two anyway. Old Su called, he was on a business trip again. Su Qianqian hung up the phone with a calm face and walked towards the empty home. After washing up, she sat in the living room in her thin pajamas, humming a song while applying the medicine. As she was applying the medicine, tears began to fall. At the snack stand on Jiayu Road, Song Ziun just finished her evening self-study and met up with her mother Zhao Kaiugjia for a midnight snack. She had already decided to live frugally in the future. Since her mother was laid off, she had to take on the responsibility of the family. However, Yunyun, Mom opened an order on the first day of work, isn't it amazing? Ah! Song Ziun was shocked, showing the same expression as sweating soybeans. Didn't you just resign today? How can it be the first day of work? I changed jobs. Zhao Kaiugjio stuck out her tongue and boasted, Mom's old customers, I brought them over. Come on, your performance is zero. Zhao Kaiugjio, unfair. Song Ziun slapped her forehead, Mom, just tell me the truth, I'll help you with some reference. I'm an adult, what can you, a little kid, help me with some reference? Zhao Kaiugjio wanted to take back the dignity that belonged to her mother, but it was useless. Seeing that her daughter was still staring at her, Zhao Kaiugjia had to tell her everything that happened tonight. Don't you think that the handsome boy is strange? Not only did he get a membership card for 998, he also bought 30 classes for 100 yuan each. The total is 4,000 yuan, so expensive. Listening to her mother's chattering, Song Ziun's eyes went dark. Mom, what's the name of the guy who issued the bill to you? Oh, you mean that handsome boy, Zhang Nian. I heard he's a senior high school student. I advised him not to buy the course because he didn't have time to attend, but he insisted on buying it. These two words combined together completely broke Song Ziun's already crooked back. How could it be him? Yunyun, do you know that handsome boy? Zhao Kaiugjio asked curiously. No, I don't know him. Song Ziun said in horror, thinking of the word dad she called during the day, which was originally meant to liven up the atmosphere, but now it's really a boomerang. She made up her mind to find a chance to ask tomorrow. At the same time, Zhang Nian was happily staring at the balance of his bank card over and over again, although Zhou Haifei didn't know why he gave up the idea of the morning task. Perhaps it was because of the misalignment. Zhou Haifei 20 years later and Zhou Haifei now were not the same thing. After all, people's ideas will change. He won't go to the gym, not even a little bit. As for reselling second-hand items, he has no plans to do so for the time being. Who knows how the system judges it? If he sells it right after the money is received, what if the money is deducted again? In short, 4,000 yuan for 20,000 yuan, it's a big win. There are 23,000 yuan in the card now. A week ago, he was just a poor high school student who only had 300 yuan in his body. Now he has suddenly become rich. Zhang Nian, who was a little inflated, tossed and turned and couldn't sleep. He got up in the middle of the night to drink water and ran into his parents in the living room, turning on the light and talking on the notebook while recording accounts. Li Hongmei frowned and whispered something to Lao Zhang. Zhang Nian just came out of the room and asked curiously, but was directly rebuked by his mother with a stern face. Go away, kid, why do you care so much? Go to bed, you have to go to school tomorrow. Okay. Zhang Nian followed suit. The system tasks have not been refreshed yet. After returning to the room, he took a few glances and went to bed. The next day. Is your foot healed? Zhang Nian brought breakfast to Su Qianqian as usual, and looked at her suspiciously. Hey, why are your eyes red? Su Qianqian washed up and was sitting in the living room waiting for him. She turned her head unnaturally when she heard the words. She was embarrassed to say that she missed her mother while applying the medicine at home alone yesterday, and couldn't help crying. She went back to the room and cried all night, and the pillow was wet. It's just that I didn't sleep well. Oh, you haven't applied the medicine yet, let me help you. Zhang Nian squatted down and looked for the medicine wine for injuries and sprains. Where did you put the medicine after applying it yesterday? You didn't throw it away. I can apply it myself. Su Qianqian lowered her head and touched the ankle and pressed it. It's almost healed. I don't think I need to apply the medicine. Zhang Nian ignored her, grabbed her foot and pulled it over. The calf was white and well proportioned, and it felt cold to the touch. The tight calf outlined a beautiful curve. The delicate sole flashed by, and the 5 toes curled up. I told you not to, she muttered. I'm going to be late, or do you think I like it? Zhang Nian reached out and poked her foot lightly. Su Qianqian instantly groaned, and her toes curled up even more. Zhang Nian imitated. Su Qianqian blushed immediately. You're going to die. Zhang Nian. Walking on the road, Su Qianqian's face was still a little red, and her ankles seemed to be warm. It was not until the moment she went up the stairs that she remembered. Are you sure about your English? There were too many people on the stairs, most of whom were there to attend class on time, so Zhang Nian only had time to turn around and say one sentence. I think so. Ding ding ding. The bell rang, and there was a movement downstairs like zombies running. It was like the end of the world under the teaching building, and the students around were running wildly. Su Qianqian opened her mouth to say something, but was eventually dispersed by the crowd. The first class was mathematics, and Zhang Nian supported himself with his hands to listen to the class. His eyelids drooped, and his mind was a little sleepy. It was all because he was too excited last night and had an extra 20,000 in his card. The weak young woman even added him on WeChat. Zhang Nian felt that duck was unnecessary. Sleepy. For senior high school students, 2 math classes at 8 a.m. are simply hell on earth. It was not easy to get through the 3rd English class. The English teacher came late, holding a dozen answer sheets in her hands, but there was no smile on her face. The students in the class were not afraid of the English teacher, and their reactions were not big, but they also kept quiet to give face. This exam, cough cough. The English teacher was a 30-year-old young woman who never wore the same clothes twice, and the bags on the podium cost more than 10,000 yuan each. Very bad, only 3 people scored above 130 points. Thanks to Mr. Wenba for the 1,000 starting coins reward. I wish the boss a good waist and kidneys. Hearing the English teacher say that there are 3 people with more than 130 points, Zhang Nian's ears immediately stood up like antennas. After the English test, he and Su Qianqian compared the answers. It can't be said to be a sure thing, but it is foolproof. Since there are 3 people with more than 130 points, as the saying goes, one of them must be wet. Even so, he is still nervous at the moment. The one who usually scores 130, Zhou Yuan, 101. The English teacher said in a bad tone, how did this bachelor get the score? Has he been in a relationship recently? The classmates below laughed, and a tall and thin man scratched his head, and reluctantly went to the stage to get the test paper. The class was suddenly filled with a joyful atmosphere. Someone at the back table was already whispering that Zhou Yuding must have scored 130. Her scores this time added up to more than 500 points, which might be the first in our class. Hearing this, Zhang Nian just wanted to laugh. Zhou Yuding first? Even if she got full marks in English, she would only get 550, while I only need to get 120 in English to easily break through 550. She is the first, purely because the money counting machine is broken. There is no coin count. However, there are few opportunities to act big in school. Zhang Nian naturally would not chuckle like a villain, but sit in his seat quietly waiting for his BGM. Where is my victory settlement BGM? Carry it up. If a cartoon-style photo is taken at this time, Zhang Nian's eyes should be covered in shadows, and the corners of his mouth should be slightly raised. Add a small bubble of lines, he. Chen Nian Nian, 131. The class was in commotion, and the first person with a score of more than 130 has come out. The scores were read one by one, and a girl's name was read. Zhao Fangfei, 137. The class was in commotion again. Zhao Fangfei was usually inconspicuous and had almost no presence in the class. After a summer vacation, it turned out that everyone was showing off. In the class, a girl turned around and looked at Zhou Yuding. "Student counselor, do you estimate your score to be around 130? In their opinion, since there are 3 girls with a score of 130 in English, the scores of 2 girls have been read out. The last one must be Zhou Yuding. I don't know, it should be around 135. Zhou Yuding pretended to be embarrassed, but she was already very happy in her heart. With 530 points, she can be promoted to a higher class and leave this place. Hey, it's a bit like changing sex in fantasy novels. His 135, so high. The girl took a breath of cold air. Then your total score must be more than 530, the score of the first book. What are you talking about? It's just a baseline test, not a real college entrance examination. Zhou Yuding felt sweet in her heart, but she still didn't say it. It may not be 130, the estimate is not accurate. As the prophecy came true, the English teacher on the stage just read out Zhou Yuding's name. Zhou Yuding, 127. After the voice fell, Zhou Yuding's expression was a little stiff, but she still stood up. At first, she felt embarrassed. After all, she had just said the estimated score of 135. But on second thought, 127 is not that hard to accept. The total score is still close to 530. When the time comes, I will ask Luffy Peng to find out the score line for the Olympic Games class. Maybe the scores of the whole grade are not high, and my score is just enough to get in. When she returned to her seat, she was still greeted with admiration. What is worthy of being a student committee member? The estimated score is only a few points off. It doesn't matter, it's also amazing if it's a little short. By the way, the student committee member only scored 127, who is the remaining 130? Zhou Yuding was also stunned. It may be Sun Shui. Someone said, her score has been reported, 113, there are only a few good English students in our class, and they all got the test paper. Zhou Yuding couldn't help but frowned, which means that there is another English dark horse in the class. If it is a god of war who is biased in one subject, it doesn't matter. I'm afraid. Does anyone know how many points Wang Ji has? She asked in a low voice. 62, I'll call him at the beginning. Hearing this, Zhou Yuding's hanging heart was put down again. Wang Ji's total score added up to 499, which is still a long way from her. My total score was 527, which was no surprise that I was the top student in the class. Oh, and there was also Zhang Nian. Hey, have you read Zhang Nian's score? The classmates nearby didn't know why Zhou Yuding suddenly asked about Zhang Nian, and no one listened carefully. I read it, I didn't pay attention, 60 or 70 or something. Zhou Yuding felt relieved and began to weave her dream of promotion. She had to create a new persona in the Olympiad class, and couldn't associate with too many boys. But she couldn't completely cut off contact with boys, so she could only show her charm. Should I try to change my hairstyle? I haven't tried pure bangs yet. In the future, I will dress more pure, find a good-looking academic master to tutor me, and build good interpersonal relationships. Just as Zhou Yuding was fantasizing, the English teacher on the stage suddenly paused. This time, the first place in our class in English scored 141, which is a very good result. As soon as the voice fell, the originally noisy class suddenly burst into a burst of "oh." Words like "who the hell is this?" kept ringing in the ears, and the reading was finished. "Quiet," said the English teacher. "Teacher, Is there anyone in our class who asks for silence? The English teacher, I told you to be quiet. Jong Nian, come up and get your test paper. Normally, few people in the class are afraid of the English teacher. Even if she said to be quiet, not many people would care, but when the word Jong Nian came out, the class suddenly became quiet, and everyone turned to look at Jong Nian's seat as if they had seen a ghost. Jo Yuding was stunned, her pupils shrank slightly, and her heart beat rapidly. Jong Nian? Why is it Jong Nian? Damn, his total score in 5 subjects is 432. How could English be 141? Wouldn't the total be .573? Are you kidding me? How could someone in the parallel class get 573? You are jumping the level to fight monsters. The class was silent for 2 or 3 seconds, and then suddenly burst into warm cheers. If Jong Nian had an excellent score in one subject, some people would question whether he cheated, but if the total score exceeded 570, then all doubts are a joke. A total score of 570 in the parallel class is like a golden legend. Fuck. Fuck. Jong Nian got 140 points. Really? That's awesome. No, guys, you guys really memorized the textbooks during the summer vacation. I was the only one playing around. And me? Me too, I was playing around too. The one who got 480 points, get out of here. Chop up and feed the dogs. Jong Nian stood up when the English teacher called out his name. He tried his best not to laugh out loud, with a calm look on his face. To be honest, 140 points in English was beyond his expectations. He was lucky. You did well on the test. You must have put a lot of effort into it during the summer vacation at home, right? The English teacher smiled at Jong Nian for the first time. Do you have any experience to share with us? What experience could Jong Nian have? Just memorize the 3,500 words for the college entrance examination. Upon hearing this, the English teacher smiled even more and said loudly, "See, what do I usually say? I told you to memorize words. You didn't listen and always liked to figure things out. You wrote math in English class. Did you think I didn't see it? If you were as obedient as Jong Nian, I would save a lot of trouble." Jong Nian was already embarrassed, and he had the same expression as Xiao Huangdu when sweating. The person who wrote math in English class in the English teacher's mouth was him. Thanks to Ziza for voting in February, Crazy Little George for voting in February, and King Yu Weiguang for voting in January. Fantasy of a weakling in one subject, not good at English, but great at math. Admired by thousands of people, favored by the teacher, and flattered by the class beauty. In fact, he is not good at English and sucks at math. Even though the English teacher had offended him last semester, he still couldn't match his score of 140 this semester, and he felt like he didn't exist. When he returned to his seat, the students around him looked back at him. Jong Nian was a little embarrassed, coughed, spread out the paper, and pretended nothing happened. Although the English teacher repeatedly warned not to chat, he still couldn't stop the enthusiasm of the students around him. They looked at Jong Nian eagerly, with disbelief on their faces. "Fuck, did you really memorize 3,500? Yeah, just name one." "Jong Nian, can you lend me your paper?" A girl at the table in front of him said shyly, "I want to see how you write your composition." "Well, okay." In the next group, Jo Yuding pinched a corner of the English paper, as if falling into an ice cave. Jong Nian scored 573. Pull yourself up by more than 40 points? Is there still hope for promotion? In principle, it is the survival of the fittest, and there is hope if you pass the line, but in practice, basically only one person in a parallel class can be promoted. The reason is also very simple: the good students have been sent out. The class level has directly changed from the top of the parallel class to the bottom, and the head teacher is still leading a collective class. Therefore, regarding the policy of promotion, each head teacher is relatively conservative. If it is really good enough, the parents will ask for it anyway, so it is better to be straightforward and let the person go. If there is only a chance to be promoted, the head teacher will generally take a gentle conversation approach. Are you sure you want to go? Young man, the front is hell. You drive a Mazda, why do you squeeze into the gathering circle of people driving Mercedes-Benz and Rolls-Royce? If you can't keep up with the pace, you may be returned if you go. Generally, at this time, students are scared. There are 2 more major exams after promotion. If the results fluctuate too much, you will be persuaded to drop out. People don't care whether you cheated or are not in good condition, they will all be persuaded to drop out. It is glorious to carry a table into the Olympic Games, but it is too embarrassing to carry a table back to the original class. Thinking of this, Jo Yuding couldn't help but clench her fists. 5 white fingers curled together unconsciously, the knuckles turned white and trembled slightly. An English test ruined her Olympic dream. New class, new personality, new licking dog. When Jo Yuding thought that those dull-looking nerds with glasses couldn't crawl under her pomegranate skirt, her teeth were about to break. Jong Nian. It's all his fault. What do you want to see me for? At noon, in a cool corner of the basketball court, under the lush shade of trees, Jong Nian held a red bean popsicle in his hand, unwrapped it and licked it, then looked up curiously at Song Ziun, who forcibly pulled him out. Mysterious, can you tell me now? He had never had much contact with Song Ziun before, because of Su Qian. In addition, he ran frequently during this period to prepare for the test, so he was quite familiar with her. What did you do last night? Song Ziun looked unnatural. Jong Nian glanced at her suspiciously, thinking, what's the matter with her expression of catching her rich husband cheating and wanting to question him but afraid of divorce? New play plot? Pinrose wardrobe? Sister, we seem to be innocent. Song Ziun wore a loose white summer school uniform with light-colored pants. She was a cute girl with a face value of more than 80 points and a slightly simple dress. Damn, no. I didn't do anything. I was in the classroom for evening self-study. He hissed. Lie. Song Ziun blushed, you were not in the classroom at all, you obviously went out. I was indeed not on Shenyang Street, and the era of living hard came to an end. Jong Nian hissed and began to answer randomly, how do you know I scored 573? Who asked you? Because no one knows a daughter better than her father. Wait, you scored 573. Song Ziun was shocked, and after a moment he asked, Duo Xiao. You scored Duo Xiao. Jong Nian grinned and swiped his popsicle. Since you ask sincerely, then I will. Song Ziun counted with his fingers, then you will be promoted to a higher class. No matter how high the score line is, it can't be higher than 550. Your score is considered middle class in the Science Olympiad class. Yes. Jong Nian swiped hissed. Song Ziun was speechless, can you put down your popsicle? You make me feel sick. Want to try it? He handed it over. Duck, no thanks. Song Ziun calmed down, remembered his purpose, took a deep breath and asked, did you get a gym membership last night? I knocked, you followed me. Jong Nian was suddenly shocked, are you addicted to secret love? Stop being narcissistic. Song Ziun couldn't handle Jong Nian's nerve attack, and began to sympathize with Su Qian in his heart. He didn't know how his best friend could stand him. Anyway, she couldn't stand it and was so angry that she wanted to vomit. Then how did you know I went to the gym to get a membership? Jong Nian seemed to have returned to normal, squinting his eyes and looking at the hot playground under the blue sky and white clouds. The hot wind blew and made her feel comfortable. Aren't you surprised that I knew you got a membership? She asked back. Why? Jong Nian was a little absent-minded. Because you asked my mother to get a membership. Oh, huh. Jong Nian looked up. That person is your mother. I was wondering why Auntie looked so familiar, but your mother's temper is much better than yours. Song Ziun was a little embarrassed again. I just want to ask, why did you suddenly get a membership and spend so much money on buying classes? Fitness, who knew it was your mother? How do you explain buying classes? You don't have time for classes at all. Song Ziun pursed her lips, and with your figure and you're on the basketball team, how can you do fitness? There's no rule that basketball team members can't do fitness. Jong Nian suddenly stopped halfway through his words, looked up at Song Ziun, and looked at her cautious and doubtful eyes. At that moment, he seemed to realize something. No, sister, you don't think I'm interested in your mom, do you? Damn, are you such a fool? What? Song Ziun's thoughts were exposed and her defense was broken immediately. Her face turned red. No, I didn't mean that. I just happened to know. My mom is worried that you don't have time to attend classes and all the money is wasted. Well, I think so too. Your money is not blown by the wind. If you want to withdraw from the class. No, don't worry about it. Jong Nian waved his hand. I was going to apply for a membership card to buy classes. If I don't buy from your mom, I will buy from someone else. Really? Song Ziun asked. Yeah, if there's nothing else, just kneel down and rest. Humph. Song Ziun's hanging heart finally let go. Hee, then I'm leaving. I have to tell Qian that you scored 573. Looking at Song Ziun's back as he left, Jong Nian was thoughtful. This person is a bit dirty. Ding. You are 38 years old and you applied for a membership card for fitness on the first day. The purchase of classes has begun to show results. You are determined to counterattack and decide to add 60 classes. Task, repurchase 60 classes. Reward, 30,000 RMB. Thanks to Buy Buy 1 for the monthly vote, and book friend 1606201028526117 for the monthly vote. Huh. Renew for 60 classes. Jong Nian was speechless. He had to admit that the system was quite a mess. But he had to renew it. Whoever earned the money didn't care. But today was Tuesday, and the results would probably be out today or tomorrow. The head teacher might have a talk about the promotion at any time, so it was not convenient to ask for leave. Jong Nian planned to go to the gym to do some tasks after the promotion was confirmed. I am really busy with all kinds of things. Jong Nian said he didn't feel much about getting the first place in the class. Everyone in the class knew that he was going to be promoted, and they all joked that he was going to ascend. No one jumped out to question whether he had copied it. No one in the class was stupid. The teacher called on him to answer questions at least a dozen times in 2 days, and he got them all right every time. Some words, the students with good English grades in the class had never heard of them, but Jong Nian could spell them out casually. As for short sentence grammar, as long as it was related to recitation, he could basically spell them out in seconds. Except for mathematics and some calculations, Jong Nian was not good at it. Even the teacher forgot some of the knowledge points related to memory in the comprehensive science exam. Jong Nian, however, remembered them clearly and answered them casually during the classroom interaction without even turning the pages of the book. With this level of memory, only people with cerebral palsy would question it. Afternoon. The weather in September was hot and dry, and the fan above the classroom was creaking. The first, second, and third classes in the afternoon were all comprehensive science subjects, and the content of the class was to talk about the test paper that was not finished yesterday. The students were extremely tired, and their heads drooped. The wind blew outside the classroom, blowing the curtains wildly. Jong Nian also supported his head with his hands, and his thoughts had already drifted to the horizon. The teachers of the 3 comprehensive science subjects knew that he was going to be promoted to a higher class, so they simply turned a blind eye. There was a half-hour self-study session near the end of the afternoon. Generally, self-study and listening training are carried out alternately. It happened that today was Tuesday, and it was the turn of English listening. The listening test sound came from the radio, and the classroom was filled with the sound of flipping books. Jong Nian, can you lend me the answers to the listening tests so I can copy them later? Okay. In fact, he didn't want to do the listening test at all, but in order to maintain his image and stand guard for the last time, he reluctantly opened the listening test book and looked at the questions with a reluctant look. The dusk outside the window pierced into the classroom, casting a layer of sunset glow on all the students who were lying on the table to read the questions. Thanks to the sunset, even the pages of the book were yellow. This is how it is in the 3rd year of high school. When you look down, there is a sea of questions, and when you look up, there is the head teacher. Huh? Head teacher. The head teacher paused in front of his seat for a moment and said, "Come to the office, I have something to talk to you about." Jong Nian felt a little relieved, thinking that it should be a conversation about promotion. So he calmly stood up, left his seat, and followed him out of the classroom. After he left, whispers rang out around the seats. The head teacher is looking for Jong Nian. Is he going to be promoted to a higher grade? It should be. If he scores over 570 and still isn't promoted, I'd be in heaven if it were him. How did you study during the summer vacation? How come you're so awesome? Damn, what's wrong with your brain? You remember so many things. Jo Yuding felt annoyed and her knuckles that were holding the pen turned pale. She wanted to yell and tell them to shut up, but she held back. She couldn't say anything in front of others, otherwise she would lose face. What would the head teacher say to Jong Nian? He would probably talk to her too. Thinking of this, Jo Yuding was distracted and didn't react until most of the listening was over. She swallowed. If only one person was destined to be promoted, she was not completely without a chance. As long as there was an office. The head teacher was talking to Jong Nian and confirmed his willingness to be promoted first. Promotion to a higher grade doesn't mean better grades. Changes in the environment, interpersonal relationships, learning pace, and the emphasis of the teacher's lectures will all affect grades. Staying in this class doesn't mean your grades can't improve. Our teachers all have master's degrees. They have many years of teaching experience and are also good at teaching top students. Ahem. Teaching students in accordance with their aptitude is commonly known as giving special treatment. After saying so much, she still can't bear to let her brother go. Abba. Sorry, I'm sure I'll be promoted to this class, even if Jesus comes. The head teacher said a lot, his mouth was dry, and he took a sip from the wolfberry thermos. So, what do you think? Yeah. Jong Nian nodded, and said to the head teacher with a happy expression, "Can I choose my own class when I'm promoted? Or is it randomly assigned?" The head teacher's smile froze, and there would be no more sadness or joy in this life. You kid, is really stubborn. Since you've decided, then ahem. The head teacher cleared his throat. Since he couldn't keep him, there was nothing he could do. It's all assigned. Do you have any ideas? Can it be done? Jong Nian certainly wanted to go to Sukinkin's class. Theoretically, yes, but in reality. The head teacher drank some water and said nothing. The grade director is more capable, and I am a nobody. You can do it, right? After a short break from school in the afternoon, Su Qianqian came back from the cafeteria and found Jong Nian. The lights were on in the teaching building, and the two of them were lying on the railings in the corridor to chat. I heard from Yunyun that you scored 573. Su Jianqian turned her head and tied her hair into a small bun. Have you asked the head teacher which class you will be promoted to? I don't know. If I can choose, I will go to your class. Zhang Nian lay on the railing with a lazy look on his face, and the desk in front of him was heavy. If I can't choose, I will leave it to fate. Choose, our class. Su Jianqian was startled. Why? Zhang Nian glanced at her and said casually. Wouldn't it be better to be closer to you? Su Jianqian blushed instantly when she heard the words, but fortunately the dusk covered her and she was not conspicuous. The mosquito-like murmur passed through the night wind, just enough for the two of them to hear. Don't come, I dislike you. Tisk. Zhou Yuding was also called out by the head teacher during the second evening self-study. Zhang Nian looked up at the door when he heard the voice, and Zhou Yuding turned back at the right time. Across most of the classroom, their eyes met in the air. Zhou Yuding's heart skipped a beat because of the cold and distant feeling. In the corridor, she couldn't help but think of a saying that was circulating in the class. Zhang Nian was stimulated during the summer vacation and stayed at home to study for 2 months, which led to his current state. Zhou Yuding would not feel guilty, but would only feel troubled. She needed Zhang Nian to give up the promotion to a higher class on his own initiative. In the brightly lit office, the head teacher repeated what he said in the afternoon. With your current grades, it's actually very difficult to get promoted to a higher class. Even if you get promoted by a narrow margin, the class atmosphere of the Olympic class may not be suitable for you. Besides, in principle, there is only one place for promotion in the class now, and Zhang Nian is 40 points higher than you. He has confirmed that he wants to be promoted this afternoon. So, you should understand. Yeah, what if Zhang Nian gives up on his own initiative? Zhou Yuding asked. The head teacher was speechless. You have to ask the person involved. I don't recommend that any of you move up to a higher class. It takes time to adapt to an unfamiliar collective environment. I understand, teacher. Zhou Yuding stood up and said, I will find a way myself. Thank you, teacher. Head teacher. After the evening self-study, the teaching building was full of people and bustle. Zhang Nian packed up his things early, with his school bag hanging on one shoulder, and was about to go out. He was going to find Su Jianqian to go home together as usual, but was suddenly stopped by someone. Zhang Nian glanced at Zhou Yuding in front of him. Is there something? Yeah. She was a head shorter than Zhang Nian, and looked up at him. I have something, I want to talk to you alone, can you wait for me for a while? Zhou Yuding's eyes were watery when she was unconfident, as if she had suffered a great injustice. Boys would soften their hearts no matter how dissatisfied they were when they saw her. Showing weakness is one of her usual tactics. Let's talk about the promotion to the next class on the phone. Zhang Nian didn't want to waste time on her, and was about to walk past her and leave. If you hadn't deleted my QQ. Zhou Yuding suddenly felt guilty, and in a flash she grabbed his white short-sleeved shirt. Wait. What for? Zhang Nian looked unhappy and said in a bad tone, this is class, classmates are watching, student council, just say what you want to say, don't pull and drag. Things change, little bitch. Don't you like to laugh? Why don't you laugh now that you don't have a place to upgrade to a higher class? Just a moment. It won't take up too much of your time. Zhou Yuding's tears rolled in her eyes. She deleted her QQ, and these words couldn't leave any traces. Zhang Nian snorted, moved her hand away, turned around and left. If you don't have morals, you won't be kidnapped. When he rushed to the classroom across the street, Su Jianqian was already waiting at the door of the classroom. Carrying a school bag, wearing a light blue dress and dark sweatpants. Why so long? She asked with a frown. Nothing, let's go. The two had just walked out of the school gate and were stopped by someone. Zhou Yuding actually caught up with them. Zhang Nian, can we chat? This is a road with fewer people, outside the parking lot at the back of the mall. Under the streetlight, 3 surveillance cameras were covering the area. Jong Nian used the shortcut key in his pocket to open the recording. Okay, let's talk here. I'm going home after you finish talking. Here. Zhou Yuding glanced at Su Qianqian, hesitant. This classmate, can you please step aside for a moment? It only takes 5 minutes. Zhang Nian was about to speak, but Su Qianqian stepped back a few meters and looked at them with her hands folded. You guys talk. Zhang Nian, Zhou Yuding had a pure face and a tall figure. At this moment, she looked a little embarrassed under the streetlight. Her mouth was slightly open and she hadn't spoken yet, but her eyes were instantly red. The head teacher talked to me about the promotion, and I happened to be online. But only one person in the class can be promoted. I know you misunderstood me before. But I really need this opportunity to be promoted, Zhang Nian, I beg you. Even if you don't get promoted, you can still easily pass the college entrance examination. I can't do that. I really want to go to Lu University. Really, I only have this one chance. Zhang Nian looked at her expressionlessly, the street light lengthened his shadow, and his eyes drooped slightly. You stopped me just to say this. Well, Zhang Nian, only you can help me. Zhou Yuding had already burst into tears, with a tear mark running down her fair face, looking pitiful. What does it have to do with me? What? I said, what does it have to do with me? Zhang Nian looked up and looked at her expressionlessly. He could see the surprise gradually appearing on her pitiful face. Your dream is your dream. What does it have to do with my promotion? If we were friends, there would be room for maneuver. Unfortunately, we are still friends. I just want to study now and don't want to have a friend. Zhou Yuding said anxiously, we can be good friends first. Zhang Nian, you liked me before, right? After the college entrance examination, I will consider being your girlfriend, okay? Help me, please. Zhou Yuding's tears fell again, and she cried under the streetlight, Zhang Nian, I really don't know. I really don't know what to do. As she said that, Zhou Yuding wanted to grab Zhang Nian's hand, but was dodged without leaving a trace. She looked at the empty hand, stood there in a daze, and the night wind blew her long hair. Zhang Nian, I beg you. Su Qianqian, who was not far away, couldn't hear the voice clearly, but could see Zhou Yuding crying and fighting under the street light. For some reason, I suddenly felt mixed emotions. Under the streetlight, Zhang Nian and Zhou Yuding distanced themselves, looking calm. Student counselor, please respect yourself. 5 minutes passed quickly, and he didn't want to delay. What kind of bullshit is this? You said you'll be my girlfriend after the college entrance examination. You're stupid to be my buddy. I'll lick you for a year, and then I'll see you check into a room with someone after the college entrance examination for a month. How much did you drink to dare to say such a mural? Open the IP and see if it's from Dunhuang. How shameless does a person have to be to say something like giving up a place? Who asked you about your dream university? It's none of my business whether you go to Lu University or a fake university. You're still considering being my girlfriend, and you're putting it as your first choice? Is this human language? What I said is true, Zhang Nian, I really need this opportunity. Zhou Yuding was about to drop her pearls again. If you don't believe me, we can be an underground couple first. No need to duck, student council. Zhang Nian said seriously, I've learned from my mistakes. I won't be friends with you anymore. I chose to move up to a higher class just to stay away from you. You can ask the class teacher to force you to move up to a higher class, no need to ask me. As for your dream, student council, I just want to ask why you didn't tell me at the birthday party. I haven't liked you for a long time. You should have felt it in 2 months. I don't have any feelings for you at all. I just want to go to college and find a prettier senior. You really have no attraction at all, so don't bring up the past. Isn't your small group very harmonious? Just play house by yourselves. After saying that, Jong Nian turned around and left without looking back once. Under the streetlight, Jo Yuting's face was still covered with tears, and she felt like she was struck by lightning. Jong Nian's words echoed in her mind again, and the more she thought about it, the more aggrieved she felt. How could he do this? It was obviously she who bowed her head first. I even said that I would consider being with him after the college entrance examination. I didn't even care about the girl's innocence. I didn't mind his poverty. What right did he have to say that he didn't like me? Doesn't love mean dedication to the other half? Doesn't it mean going through tests? If Jong Nian, who had walked away with Su Qianqian, heard this, he would definitely vomit blood. Test your mother. Simple. On the way, Su Qianqian lowered her head and grabbed the strap of her school bag. What were you talking about just now? Oh, nothing. Jong Nian glanced at the girl beside him. She cried and said she wanted to be my girlfriend and that she wanted to have an underground relationship with me. Thanks to LVVV for the February vote, Bei Yufa for the January vote, and Shangxia Minjia for the January vote. Ah. Su Qianqian looked at him suspiciously. Is it true? Of course it's true, but I refused. Jong Nian lied without blushing. I don't plan to fall in love in the third year of high school, I just want to study. This is Jo Yuting's original words, which were shamelessly plagiarized by Jong Nian. Well, you are right to think so. Su Qianqian walked in front and said seriously, when you go to college, you have more choices, and there is no need to limit yourself to a small county town. Oh, it sounds like you know a lot. Jong Nian sighed. Su Qianqian's face gradually turned red. My cousin told me. Oh, then has your cousin found a boyfriend? No. Su Qianqian's voice became lower and lower, and she explained with a lack of confidence, my cousin is different, her goal is to be a graduate student. Then there were difficult words, such as modern independent women and upward choice. The way home from evening self-study was suddenly filled with joy. 6. I am from Dunhuang, and I can tell at a glance that it is true. Chi Snow Leopard, this is the mural. Jong Nian laughed loudly, and then said mysteriously. Hey, do you know? The old lady at the entrance of our village is still single at the age of 80. Guess what? When she was about to die, the ground suddenly cracked and an immortal king walked out. The immortal king fed the old lady an elixir, and she instantly returned to the age of 18. In the end, the two of them returned home hand in hand and became an immortal couple. That scene, purple air came from the east, red flags fluttered, and there were crowds of people. We all envy this couple. So you let your cousin hold on, she will definitely find her sweetheart. Don't say that about my cousin. Su Qianqian was embarrassed. Jong Nian said casually, Su Qianqian, your cousin is also a der, don't associate with her. Oh. After returning home, Jong Nian heard the sighs of his parents coming from the room again. But because it was late, it was not easy to knock on the door, so he called directly. Mom's voice roared through the door with full energy. Jong Nian, you are itching for trouble, right? Why are you calling so late at night? Well, I'm just curious. You've been sighing for 2 nights. Jong Nian said, by the way, Mom, I forgot to tell you that I failed the exam this time. Don't make trouble, go to bed. Oh. Jong Nian was sweating. It seems that something really happened, otherwise he would have asked carefully after the exam results were released. Now he is so busy that he has forgotten about it. It is estimated that he encountered something difficult. However, Jong Nian did not take it to heart. He would not worry about his parents' affairs. He can support them if they are short of money, but he can't help with other things. In the words of Comrade Lee Hungmei, getting good grades in the exam is filial piety. Zhang Nian thought, wait until the class division is determined in the next 2 days before telling them. But I will ask Lao Zhang about this matter tomorrow, and I will know it after asking. The next morning. Click, the sound of keys came from the old door lock of the Zhang family. With a creak, a ray of morning light shone into the dim living room. Zhang Nian had just come back from buying breakfast. He happened to see his father, Comrade Lao Zhang, getting up early to go to the toilet, so he stopped him and asked. You are a child, why are you asking so many questions? Lao Zhang was full of doubts, with a stern face, intending to restore the majesty of a loving father. Don't ask about adults' affairs. Comrade Lao Zhang, I am an adult. Not a child yet. As a member of the family, I can still make money. Zhang Nian picked up the buns in his hand and shook them. Is it not too much to have some right to know about the responsibility of one of the 3 meals a day for the family? The mouth is soft when the food is eaten, and the hand is short when the gift is given, even if it is a biological son. Lao Zhang was speechless immediately, frowned for a while and finally told him the truth. It's nothing, the old family needs to collect money to renovate the ancestral hall. Collect money? Almost, it hasn't been decided yet. Lao Zhang took on the responsibility and waved his hand. Okay, now you know, go to school. Oh. Zhang Nian suddenly felt awkward. Even though he could guess the result, he still asked tentatively, is the budget tight? How about I pay a little? Old Zhang was too lazy to reply him. He waved his hand and went into the bathroom. Alas, the father's worried alliance. Zhang Nian forgot about what happened in the morning when he went out. Anyway, his words were not important. As long as it involved money, he would definitely not let himself intervene. There was nothing to worry about. Food, oil, salt, and firewood, at most, he could subsidize the family from other places in the future. I don't know if he didn't check the almanac before going out. Just after parting with Su Qianqian, he turned a corner at the door of the classroom and ran into Zhou Yuding. Zhang Nian. Zhou Yuding's eyes were still a little red. For the first time, she took the initiative to greet him. Well, actually my left eye is highly myopic. Zhang Nian moved to the right side, my left ear is 80% deaf. Classmate, who are you? Zhou Yuding. I know you are still angry with me. By Yang's late mood, for a moment Zhang Nian couldn't tell whether she was serious or just playing a role. Looking at her red eyes, he was a little soft-hearted. Was what he said last night too much? After all, she is a girl. Alas, neither girls nor animals can do that. Seeing that no one in the classroom was staring at this side, Zhang Nian quickly approached Zhou Yuding and said gently with a bubbling voice. Baby, I'm not angry, I'm going to move up a class. Zhou Yuding was stunned, and blood rushed to her brain, and she almost fainted. You. In the first class in the afternoon, the preliminary list of students who were going to move up a class came out. As expected, Zhang Nian's name was the only one in the class, mixed in the 16th row of the list. The class assigned was Science Olympiad Class 3, which was also Class A403. Su Qinqin's class was on the 3rd floor, Science Olympiad Class 4, A304. It was a pity that they were not in the same class. In the evening self-study, he asked the head teacher for leave again. Zhang Nian, I remember you just asked for leave the day before yesterday, right? Why did you ask for it again? It's like this, the disease relapsed. Relapse? Yes. The head teacher looked at the leave note, and then looked at his unfilial disciple who was about to be promoted to a class, and his mind was already automatically looping the actor BGM. You pretend to be sick too superficially, like an actor with no talent. Bid, you don't even want to pretend now, right? His eyelids twitched again, and finally nodded. Okay, be careful. Taking advantage of the night, Zhang Nian happily walked out of the school gate, took out his mobile phone on the side of the road and made a call. Sister Zhao, yes, it's me. Yeah, I'm on the side of the road in the county. Is it convenient for you to pick me up? Yes, yes, I'm in class. 4,000 thrown away is not all a waste, at least there is a package pickup service. Zhang Nian stood on the side of the road with his arms folded, planning to complete the task today. When you don't have money, you don't feel short of money, but when you have money, there are holes everywhere. There are not many cars in the small county town, and the dim street lights illuminate the entire road, as if a bright yellow blanket was laid. 15 minutes later, a woman's motorcycle stopped on the side of the road. Zhao Kaiuxia took off her helmet, smiled at Zhang Nian on the side of the road, and raised her head. Zhang Xiaohui, get in the car. Thanks to Wuivong Rongguang, book friend 20210301101417762 for voting in January, Yi husband, and 2 wife De Tianzun for voting in February, and Xiao Wu De Maong for voting in February.